Good evening. I now call to order the February 26, 2025 regular City Council meeting to order. Tonight I am joined by Mayor Pro Tem Bazagian and Council members Albrecht, Shapiro, and Weintraub, as well as city staff. If you would like to provide public comment, please complete a speaker card and give it to our city clerk. Speaker cards can be found in the back of the room. Members of the public who need hearing assistance can also request a device from our city clerk. At this time, I'd like to begin this evening's with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please welcome Girl Scout Troop 3256, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning. May I please have your attention for our flag ceremony? Please stand for the presentation of our colors. Color Guard, attention. Color Guard, advance. Color Guard, hold. Color Guard, present the colors. Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. Please join us in singing America the Beautiful. America, the spacious skies, forever days of grace. Forth purple mountains, majesties, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy head with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Color Guard, post the colors. Color Guard, salute the colors. Color Guard, dismiss.
If the council could stand up, we'll take a picture. Thank you. You can hold your cookies. With their cookies. With your cookies, they've asked. Everybody look this way. Say Girl Scout cookies.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, that's always the best part of the meeting. Thank you, girls. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Weintraub, seconded by Councilmember Shapiro. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. City Attorney, do you have anything to report on closed session?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. We did meet in closed session starting at 6 p.m. to discuss one item of potential litigation, as well as two items of existing litigation, with the cases being Mountain Restorations Trust versus City of Calabasas, as well as City of Calabasas versus County of Los Angeles and County Sanitation District Number 2. All items were discussed, but no reportable action was taken for any of those items.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so the first item on our agenda tonight, and this is, I'm a little choked up that I get to do this. I'm honored tonight to recognize John Mueller for 20 years of dedicated service as a planning commissioner. Mr. Mueller was first appointed in 2005 and also served as a member of the tree board beginning in 2003. He has proven to be a leader, helping to implement the principles of land use and sustainable planning, and has demonstrated vision and integrity. He has set a high standard of professionalism and has worked collaboratively with the other commissioners to help better the city of Calabasas. The City Council would like to thank him for his remarkable service and commitment to excellence. Mr. Mueller, please come up to accept our certificate of recognition.
One, two, three.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
And now I know my fellow council members have the desire to say a few remarks. John, you mind if we go first?
Please.
I'll start with Councilmember Weintraub.
Thank you so much for everything that you've brought to the community through your years of service on the Planning Commission. I served with you on the Planning Commission, and I learned so much from you, and you've made a huge impact to this city. So I know we kept you on longer than you really wanted, so we all appreciate that very much, but wishing you the best in everything that you do. You've really been an incredible asset to the community.
Mayor Pro Tem Bazagian.
John, you've been a pillar of support for the city on the Planning Commission for so many years. We've relied on your expertise, your experience, your sound judgment, and you really contributed quite a bit to the city's development. So it's very much appreciated, and we are sorry to see you go. We really are, and that's what Alicia said is true. We did keep you on longer than you wish, which is the opposite of what usually happens to commissioners. So you should be honored just by that fact alone.
Councilmember Shapiro.
Well, thank you. This is a long ways from when we used to watch our sons up in the tree area play on the tennis team at Calabasas High, and even then you were calm. You'd keep me calm from getting too excited. But truly, thank you for all your years of service. Your calm, intelligent demeanor and the way you represented the city on the Planning Commission was tremendous. You worked collaboratively and, as I said, effectively with everyone on that commission, and it was really impressive to watch, which I did often. And I know I asked you at one point, I think it was my alternate appointment or suggestion, and you said you might do it for a few months. I think that turned into a number of years. So I thank you and enjoy your time, because you're going to have a lot more of it, but we appreciate you and we'll miss you. And we'll still see you in the city, I know.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Albert.
John, it just is such a surprise. We met just a few years ago, and I really appreciated your help and what you've done to step in for the Planning Commission, and here it is, you're saying goodbye. I guess you didn't get the notice. We're not accepting it. But it was wonderful. It was emblematic, your time on the Planning Commission, of what commissioners really are all about. You displayed balance, leadership, patience, everything that your presence will be missed so much. So thank you, and I wish you good wishes come true.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it all.
And I get to say something as well, John. You're the reason I'm sitting here. And, you know, when I was watching the Planning Commission and I was watching the way particularly that you handled the meeting, the way that you were prepared at every meeting, the way that you responded to conversation with your fellow commissioners, it made me want to get involved. And I remember as I got involved in the Planning Commission and I had questions about an item, you know, with the Brown Act, we can only talk to one other commissioner before we're up here on the dais. And you were my phone call. And I remember sitting down at Corner Bakery with you a couple of times before the meeting and saying, what do you think? I don't understand what we're debating here. And you just had a very enlightening approach to everything that we looked at. And you taught me how to run a meeting. And you taught me about public service. And ultimately, I decided to run for council because of the road that you paved for me. So I owe you a big debt of gratitude, not only for your 20 years of service, but for myself and all of those others that you've inspired along the ways. And with that, we would love to hear from you.
Provided you don't set the timer.
Mayor, there were a couple
Thank
public
you.
comments. if
Oh,
you wanted
we
to
have
take
public
those
comments first?
Oh,
Either way.
Oh, John.
why don't I go first?
All right.
Okay. Well, good evening, members of the council, Mr. City Manager. I am John Muller, a 38-year resident of Calabasas, same home, all those years in Mallwood, which my kids occasionally call Dullwood. Yes, I have been around a long time, though usually I kind of remained under the radar. I will be brief tonight. Over the past 20 years, I and the Planning Commission have decided hundreds and hundreds of cases. Don't worry, I don't plan to go through any of them tonight. But I do have a few people I'd like to thank. First and foremost, my beautiful wife, Margaret. Margie to many of you, and because of me, probably Saint Margaret to a number of you as well. She has been the love of my life and inspiration for over 40 years. The council. I have known most of you for decades. James has been the rock for all of my years on the commission. His policy and political skills are truly unrivaled. Dave Shapiro, as he mentioned, I've known for many years as we watch the boys play tennis from the knoll where the Performing Arts Center now sits. Ed, I've gotten to know you the past couple years with many, frankly, good and frank telephone calls, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Ed. And of course, Alicia and Peter, I was proud to serve with you both as planning commissioners, and I hope some of that experience encouraged you to seek election and re-election to the council now and for several years. Well done. And a special thanks to my good friend and sometime pickleball partner, Mary Sue Maurer, who consistently reappointed me term after term. You know, I learned my role by standing on the shoulders of many great commissioners, Gary Klein, Dave Brown, Martha Fritz, Rick Schumacher, and many others to name. I would like to pay a special tribute to my former commissioner, Mark Seekand, who was really my comrade in arms for many years. I think we got to the point where we could pretty much finish each other's sentences. And I have served with most of the current planning commissioners for many of them, perhaps a decade. Dennis Washburn, very grateful who's here tonight, our George Washington, knows more about Calabasas and the Santa Monica Mountains than anybody on earth. Bob Leah, who pulls no punches and gets to the heart of the matter faster than anyone I know. Michael Harrison, a planning commissioner, a council person, and a commissioner again. He shows his passion for our fair city at each and every hearing. Matt, I'm delighted to have worked with you now a couple of years and so proud that the commission has been wise enough to make you co-chair, which means you will likely someday fill the shoes of, I think, the best chairperson I've ever had the pleasure to work with, Wendy Fosberg. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for all you've done for the city. You're the best. And Candace, I look forward to getting to know you, and I absolutely know you will be great. So in closing, the council's two favorite words, I would like to acknowledge the most outstanding planning staff and department directors in all of LA County and perhaps beyond. Your hard work and preparation for each meeting, workshop, general plan amendment made my life so much richer and frankly so much easier. Thank you, Michael, Tom, Glenn, Maureen, Elizabeth, and all the excellent planners over the many years we've spent together. Thank you all sincerely for having confidence in me for 2 decades. And I thank everyone who's come tonight and on the dais for your kindness, appreciation, and support. It means everything to me.
Now, we have a number of speakers who wish to speak on this item. If you would come up to the microphone when I call your name and let us know your name and your city of residence. Our first speaker is Glenn. You're not going to make me pronounce his last name, are you?
Mr. Mayor, that's your test. All of you know me. I began my employment here in 2002, and when Commissioner John Mueller walked through the door and was appointed to the tree board, I was in liaison for the tree board. So I have known John for just about every year I've been in this city and have grown to respect him so very much. When I think of John as a commissioner, he instantly elevates any board or commission that he's on. And you have all mentioned all of his great qualities, so I don't need to repeat them all. The intelligence, the candor that he has, and the way he has with people is just truly amazing. And this city in particular, I think we have a lot of complicated projects, and we've given him, I don't know how many thousands of pages of information to read over the last 20 years. But he's faithfully read through them all and has great questions to ask of us, great questions to ask of people that have come to the dais to speak on projects. And he, as most commissioners should do, weigh very equally all the evidence in front of them fairly, justly, and come to a decision based on that. And he really is one of the, if not the best planning commissioner I have ever worked with. So I'm going to truly miss him with all my heart, and I hope he does keep in touch with us. I plan on staying here for a while, and just great to have worked with you all these years, John. Thanks.
Maureen?
This is like deja vu. I'll first apologize to the audience, to the council, and to John and family for my voice. It squeaks, but it's heartfelt, that's for sure. There isn't a better person, a better planning commissioner, a wise man, a thoughtful person, a prepared, solid, good guy, Charlie Brown. And to serve with him for as long as I did, I think I got 18 years in with you. I knew you'd be prepared every day. You spoke, John, about projects. Projects are usually what people remember in the city. I hated that project, that decision, loved that one. But John was there through all that tedious, hard legal stuff that comes from general plans, housing elements, 3 or 4 or 5 of those, safety elements, master plans, zoning code amendments, the entire zoning code he helped us edit and write through workshop after workshop after workshop. That tedious stuff is the foundation of how we develop today. And it comes from mostly his input to be able to build consensus with his colleagues to come to good, strong planning principles that are embodied in the codes that the city uses. So I thank him for the things that you don't remember, because it's really the foundation of the projects that you do remember. I'll say one last thing. Congratulations on, I guess, what's kind of a retirement from service. I was with you for a while. I'll bet you get back into it like I did. But most importantly, and John will know what I'm talking about, one piece of advice as you meet with John and you're hanging out and having coffee or anything else, don't put money on a game of hearts with him. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more speaker, Dennis.
I guess I better say my name, Dennis Washburn, and city of residence is the city of Calabasas, which we all started, and which John has been so influential in his entire life here in this city, before and during and as we speak in this wonderful place of respect for the people of Calabasas. So all the good stuff has been said. I don't have any jokes to tell. I just want to vouch for the fact that John has always brought integrity and faithfulness and interactivity with his fellow commissioners and fellow community service people. He's always been engaged in what is important in this community, never stepped back, and it really comes down to a sense of spirit that people like John bring to this community, because he certainly has that. And I've appreciated it both from the council side and from the commission side, and all the things that we've tried to do to raise the spirit of this community. And if there's anybody who deserves to be cited for the spirit of Calabasas, it's John Muller. And lest I leave out Margie, I just learned tonight that she's actually volunteered like 30 hours a week for a food bank in the West Valley. This is the Episcopalian Church campus. It's on Shoup and Burbank. So these are folks who don't go away. They're folks who continue to give and give and give. And it's a delight to have them in this community. So farewell, but not really. You better stay here and stay active with a bunch of us. Thanks.
All right, that was our last speaker for this item. Congratulations, John, on your retirement, whatever that might look like, and thank you for your 20 years of service. Moving on to our next item, we're going to recognize a few employees this evening. Every year, the City Council has the privilege of recognizing employees who have reached various levels of tenure within the city. Some are in attendance tonight, and I would like to take a moment to briefly honor each employee for their service and dedication. The following employees have celebrated work anniversaries during 2024. And we're going to take them one at a time to make sure we have a chance to recognize each one and present a little award and say a few comments. So I'll start with Yadira Zimmerman. Yay. Yadira joined the city. Yadira joined the city in 2019 as assistant to the city clerk and quickly became an integral part of the city's city clerk's department. Her talent and strong work ethic were evident from the start, leading to her promotion to executive assistant in the finance department that same year. In 2021, Yadira's passion for growth and communications inspired her to transition to the communications department, where she has since excelled in her duties. Yadira has played a pivotal role in strengthening connections between departments, the Calabasas community, and residents through her positive can-do attitude and the ability to quickly and efficiently carry out her assignments. Her impact is especially apparent during emergencies, where she collaborates closely with the Public Safety Department to ensure timely and accurate information reaches the community through all city channels. Yadira's adaptability, unwavering dedication, and ability to seamlessly juggle multiple responsibilities make her an invaluable member of the Calabasas team. Congratulations on this well-deserved recognition.
One, two, three.
So we're going to run through each of our employees first here, and then we'll go back up to the dais to make comments because of the microphone, okay? All right, our next honoree this evening is Ron Allers. Where are you, Ron? There you are. Come on up. On April 1, 2019, the City of Calabasas warmly welcomed Ron Allers as its Chief Financial Officer. With nearly 20 years of municipal experience, he previously served as the Finance Director for the City of Moorpark. As Calabasas CFO, Ron has achieved significant milestones and driven impactful initiatives. His notable accomplishments include establishing a Section 115 trust to reduce costs for post-retirement employee benefits, instituting a comprehensive capital improvement plan to properly allocate funding for new public infrastructure, and creating a deferred maintenance fund to support the city's aging infrastructure. By enacting such strategies, Ron has ensured long-term sustainability and support for our valued employees and city facilities. Ron's strategic foresight in managing the city funds has also been commendable. One of his greatest strengths has been the ability to provide consistent, accurate, and balanced budgets in the years following the COVID-19 pandemic, despite declining revenues and increased costs faced by municipalities across the country and state. Additionally, Ron has effectively invested the city's idle funds in a conservative yet advantageous manner. On behalf of the city, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Ron for his dedication, vision, and commitment to the financial well-being of Calabasas. Okay, our next honoree is Jacqueline Rackerby. Come on closer. Got to get you in the camera there. Jacqueline Rackerby joined the Community Development Department in 2018 as a part-time planning aide while studying urban planning at CSUN. In fact, Jacqueline initially studied astrophysics before switching her major to urban planning, which just goes to show that government work really is rocket science. After graduating in 2019, she was brought on full-time as an assistant planner, being promoted to her current planner position in 2023. As a valued member of the planning division, Jacqueline excels in her planner duties, bringing customer service and a desire to help the community to the forefront of her work. She is hardworking, thorough, and a real team player. In just 5 years, Jacqueline has been integral in adopting the city's new wireless ordinance, manages the city's housing programs, oversees online permit system for planning, and works on more complex current planning projects, including the recent Commons Lane development. She also recently graduated with a master's degree in public administration, demonstrating her commitment to the public sector and leadership goals. Thank you for all that you do for the city of Calabasas. Now we're up to the 15-year anniversaries. We don't have any 10s, huh? Jennifer Hernandez. Congratulations. Jennifer Hernandez began her career with the city of Calabasas 15 years ago as an executive assistant, where she supported the daily operations of De Anza Park with dedication and precision. Her eagerness to learn and her aptitude for programming and operations within community services quickly made her an integral member of the department. In 2021, Jennifer's hard work and commitment to excellence earned her a promotion to Recreation Coordinator at the Calabasas Senior Center. In this role, her genuine, kind, and understanding nature, coupled with her sharp sense of humor and can-do attitude, made her a perfect fit for the community services industry. Her contributions have enriched the lives of the senior community, creating hundreds of meaningful and engaging programs while fostering a welcome environment. In November 2024, Jennifer was promoted to Facility Supervisor of the Calabasas Senior Center. In this capacity, she continues to excel, enhancing the operations and programming of the facility while demonstrating leadership and vision. In November 2024, Jennifer was promoted to, I just read that, didn't I? Jennifer is a true asset to the city of Calabasas and its community. Her dedication, creativity, and positive energy have left an incredible mark on the Senior Center and beyond. We are proud to celebrate her 15 years of outstanding service and look forward to all she will continue to achieve. And our 20-year anniversary tonight is for Tom Bartlett. Tom Bartlett joined the Community Development Department in 2004 as a city planner, a newly created position to manage the planning division. Throughout his tenure, Tom has led the planning division through important accomplishments, including adoption of the 2030 general plan, 4 regional housing needs assessment cycles, a complete revision of the development code, and Mont Calabasas annexation. Furthermore, Tom's guidance was crucial in the development of Canyon Creek, Horizons, Viewpoint Campus Master Plan, the Oaks, the Summit Shopping Center, Las Virgenes Village Shopping Center, the Cambria Hotel, the Hilton expansion, Cadillac, and Audi. Tom also serves as the city's Historic Preservation Officer and has worked with the Historic Preservation Commission to designate historic landmarks throughout the city. His efforts have helped shape this community and create the beautiful environment that we all love and enjoy. Prior to working in Calabasas, Tom was the planning director in Santa Paula and planning administrator for the city of Indianapolis. He has supervised and managed more than 30 professional planners throughout his career. Under his mentorship, many of his employees have gone on to become planning managers, directors, and even city managers. With more than 40 years of experience, Tom brings honesty and integrity to the field and has dedicated his career to serving the public. Thank you for all that you do for the city of Calabasas. Well, yeah, we still have more to come. One more. It's a big night here, folks. Elizabeth Parker. Liz Parker joined the Community Development Department in 2004 as an executive assistant and was shortly thereafter promoted to Executive Assistant 2. For more than 20 years, Liz has worked hard to keep the Community Development Department running smoothly. Liz is responsible for maintaining the department's master calendar, including scheduling, preparing agendas, and disseminating materials for the Planning Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, Development Review Committee, Community Development Directors Hearing, and the Architectural Review Panel. If you have received a hearing notice in the mail, it was most likely sent by Liz. Liz also manages the day-to-day needs of the department, ordering supplies, processing invoices, keeping licenses, credentials up to date, and setting up for public hearings. And she does it all with a smile. Liz is a pleasure to work with, always offering to help, eager to learn, and genuinely committed to the city. Thank you for all that you do for the city of Calabasas. Liz, please come up and accept a recognition from the city. Congratulations once again to all of our city employees that have reached their milestones this evening. We are moving into council announcements, and feel free to comment about our city employees during your announcements if you'd like. But let's go ahead and just start with Councilmember Albrecht.
Thank you, Mayor. Boy, oh boy, what a great crew we have. We've lived here over 30 years, but spending the last 3 years now inside City Hall and sharing the experiences with everybody, it's just wonderful. It truly is a great group that help each other. The culture here, how everybody's unified in their efforts. Those that are new get taught from people that have been here before, and those that have been here before make sure other people are doing the right thing. I just thrilled to be a part of it. So hope it continues, and I know it will for a long time. On the announcement side, I think this is no secret, you know, what's going on with the city, on our efforts to amend the situation at the landfill, and we hope that we'll ultimately have some success down the line. During the week, I had shared some time on the homeless count, and that was an interesting trip. Our city, and it's got to do also with the people that work here, help on that situation, are homeless that are discovered, and we did discover some that night. It's a good event on an annual basis to protect the city. So those are my announcements.
All right. Councilmember Weintraub.
Just want to congratulate all of our staff again for their milestone anniversaries. We're so lucky to have such a wonderful staff in the city of Calabasas. I know it definitely is something that separates us from other communities. So thank you to everyone. I also just wanted to acknowledge all of our residents who have been working so hard to show up, speak up, and write regarding the landfill issue. We really appreciate all of the outreach and the community coming together on this issue. It's such an important issue for our community and something that we are committed to standing up for the health and safety of our residents. Although things haven't gone in our favor so far, we're committed to doing what we can, and more information will come out about that later. But I really just wanted to acknowledge the residents who have been such an integral part of speaking up on behalf of the community. It was so great even when we were at one of the earlier protests, and Dennis was there, you know, one of the founders of our city, along with all these young kids. It was everyone there together for the future of our city. So just wanted to thank everyone and stay tuned for more updates.
Councilmember Bazagian.
I wanted to also add to that and agree with Alicia's comments. And I'm very proud of the residents for having participated in so much of this. Know that we are trying very hard. A number of us attended the court proceedings on Monday, and then on Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors hearing. Those were all-day commitments, and I just want the residents to know to keep up the activism. The struggle is not over. There are things that are still we're able to do, and we will do them as we can. But I'm very appreciative of the effort of the community coming together.
Thank you. Councilmember Shapiro.
Thank you, and I also want to take a moment to thank staff. Tonight's an example of why our city is so fantastic. We have the best staff, as was mentioned earlier, that does so much behind the scenes. People don't see it on a daily basis, but the work is tremendous. Everything they do helps make our job a lot easier, and they do care about the community. So thank each and every one of you, and it really, well, it's the least of what we can do is take a few minutes for each of you. So thank you. And as mentioned by my colleagues, staff is a family. They're all a family. We all work together. Our city has become even more of a family over these past number of weeks since the fire's completed, since the issues being discussed in court and at supervisors' offices and all around on the news have been discussed. We are a family, and we have great support in the community. Our city is very supportive and doing everything we can, and it's very, at least it's been pretty clear recently, especially that like family, you rely on yourself. You rely on the city. You rely on our city attorney. You rely on our council, our staff, to protect residents to the best of our abilities. We're still looking for outside support as well, as much as we can receive. We think we are certainly entitled to it, and I'll stop with that there. And speaking of family, it's been a tough week everywhere. Overseas, I know it's been on the news quite a bit. In Israel, the Bibas family was returned but not alive, including two young children and a mother. So our hearts and prayers go out to them and all those innocent lives lost, still not home yet. I had the pleasure to see a speaker along with Councilmember Albrecht and Councilmember Weintraub at the Calabasas High School, a 92-year-old Holocaust survivor. It was amazing. Her name is Eva Perlman, and she stood for an hour and 10 minutes going through a slideshow, pointers. It wasn't negative or hate. It was really a positive, as positive it could be, uplifting and intelligent and sharp. And I'm thinking, if I'm 92 and I can stand for an hour, I'm going to be fantastic. So that was a really special event. Thank you to LVSD for putting that on. And also at LVSD, I had the pleasure to attend the Calabasas High School music program, which included A.E. Wright and A.C. Stell. And last but not least, March 15th is Arbor Day at Wild Walnut Park. You can come there, plant some trees, lots of kids, lots of adults. It's a wonderful day, and that's our brand new park. And also there is a free compost giveaway on that day. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for your comments. Before I move on to my comments, I did also want to recognize that there are several employees who have also reached milestones that were not able to join us tonight, but we should make sure to share those with you this evening. We'd like to honor them for their service and recognize them for their anniversaries. With 5 years of service, we recognize Francisco Barbosa, maintenance technician. Armando Rodriguez, maintenance technician 2 for 15 years of service. And last but not least, celebrating his 20th anniversary with the city is Luis Hernandez, public works superintendent. On behalf of the City Council, I'd like to thank each employee recognized tonight for your dedication and commitment to the city, and also to John Mueller, our outgoing commissioner. As far as announcements, I also want to share with you that we have a public workshop for Las Virgenes Creek. It is February 27th. I believe that's tomorrow from 5 to 7 in the community center. We also have an e-waste collection going on from 10 to 3. That e-waste roundup is in the Albertsons Shopping Center back parking lot. Make sure that you're not disposing of hazardous waste in our landfill. And there's several programs going on, including a winter pumpkin patch story time and such at the library. Check out our cityofcalabasas.com page and you'll find more information on all of those items. We are now to public comments for any members of the public who are wishing to speak on non-agendized items. If you would like to speak on a non-agendized item, you need to fill out a speaker card in the back of the room and get that to our city clerk. So far, I have one card, and we'd ask you to please state your name and city you live in. You'll be allowed 3 minutes to address the City Council on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Council. And our first speaker is Mark Levinson.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. It's very humbling to see the commitment by workers for this city. It's amazing how many hours and days they put in for the city. The chamber has been very, very active. We have some other things coming up that I would just like to explain. On March 1, we have a wealth preservation and protection seminar going on. Information is on the St. Chambers website. On March 11 is the Education Forum, and at the forum we have Dr. Jennifer Aguilar, who is the principal of Louisville High School, which is a private girls' Catholic school speaking, and anyone interested in same-sex education and parochial education should be there. On March 18, we have a ribbon cutting for Logic, who's actually been in practice and open for business for 5 years. They opened during the COVID era and have been unable to have a ribbon cutting all during that time. I think everyone knows that Logic has been very, very active in the community and will continue to do so, so we're having a ribbon cutting that day. And then Postal Annex, a new chamber members having a ribbon cutting on March 19th, and also you're all invited. And again, thank you.
Thank you. And I have no other speaker cards for this evening. So we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent calendar. The consent calendar consisting of items 6 through 12. Does any of my council members wish to pull an item on the consent calendar?
I do, but did we vote to approve the agenda?
We did.
We did, okay.
And it was unanimous.
Okay, it's been a while. I want 8 and 10 pulled, please.
8 and 10. Does anybody else wish to pull an item from the consent calendar?
11, please.
8, 10, and 11.
And
Okay, we'll go ahead and start with number 8 then. Councilmember Visagian.
8, I just, consistent with my previous vote, I wanted to vote no, based solely on the fact the council changed and raised the number of digital kiosks. So if I can do that with a motion for the whole consent calendar and then just indicate that I'm dissenting on 8, that's fine.
That'll be fine. Anybody else commenting on 8? Okay, item number 10.
10, I had a couple questions about for staff. You know, there are some, I'm not going to mention names, but there are some repeat offenders over the years on the tobacco regulations. And I didn't cross-reference the original ordinances that we passed, but I thought the original ordinances read something like, you know, second violation is like a lifetime ban. So did that get revised, or are we not following that? What's going on with that? It hasn't changed. I don't think your mic's on. It's not on.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
Well, I could hear you anyways. I'm just talking about the audience.
Sorry about that. No, the ordinance hasn't changed. When it was originally adopted, it escalated. So the first violation resulted in a 3-month revocation. The second violation within a 5-year period would result in a 6-month violation, and so on and so on. I think by the 4th violation, then it becomes permanent. That's also only for violations within 5 years. So if it's been more than 5 years, that first violation would go effectively off the books, and then any new violation would start back over at 3 months. And in other cases, if a business has changed hands, they may still have the same name, but if they've changed hands and it's demonstrated that it's an arm's length distance, then any prior violation is also no longer relevant.
So do we have any businesses that have not been able to sell because there's a lifetime ban?
There's none that have a lifetime ban, but there's one that has had, I think, a 6-month revocation recently.
Okay. All right. And final question is, in looking at it, because I know we passed this quite some time ago, has staff, if you have any suggestions for revisions, I think maybe that would be appropriate. I mean, we haven't looked at it in an awful long time, and I'm just wondering now that we've gone through the enforcement phase a few times, things have changed. It just seems to me like, and we've got new kinds of products that we banned and other things. If you have any suggestions, maybe a commission looks at it again, just and see if there's any need for an update on the ordinances. But thank you for the report.
Any other comments on item number 10? No. Okay, item number 11.
Thank you. And since we honored Ron tonight, I thought we'd at least give him a few minutes. Thank you. I was going through the CAFR, which is always a great document to read, right? I just want to ask a couple general questions that maybe you could, because I'm looking for my notes and I don't see them. I know one of the questions I had, if you could explain the situation with the funding and the numbers projected for the Tennis and Swim Center. Why don't I start with that one? And I'm looking for the pages. Okay.
And you'll notice the top line there, Councilmember Shapiro, shows that there is zero cash in the fund. And what it actually is down below where it shows due to other funds is about 180. What is it? Due to other funds, 180,000. And that's due to a lot of investment in capital assets in that fund. You'll recall that our Community Services Department has redone the pool, redone the decking around the pool. They have purchased exercise equipment as well as resurfaced a number of tennis courts. You'll find.
I'm sorry, Ron, if I could interrupt for a quick second?
Sure.
It's, could be 41 in the financial report, but we're working with the handout from our agenda here.
I see it. It's page 41 also.
It is.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
So our investment in all the capital for tennis and swim is about $777,000. Thank you. And so that's where all that cash has basically gone to, is investing in the infrastructure. We are continuing to do that because there are a number of other projects that the Tennis and Swim Center requires in the next few years, besides a roof replacement, electrical panel replacement, and other items. So we will be looking at increasing revenues in the tennis and swim to replenish our cash and to continue to invest to keep the tennis and swim center not only looking good, but the infrastructure to be up to date and sound, and keep the center operating efficiently.
Great, thank you. And obviously in other properties, other areas as well, we're going to have some long-term projects that we need to do that are going, as you've already discussed in our last budget cycle, that we're going to have to prepare for and find a way to do in the coming years, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments on item number 11? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Could I just also ask, I forgot, a couple
Would you like
questions
12
on
as well?
12, please.
Sure. Item number
I
12,
want to keep Curtis busy.
Councilmember Shapiro.
Thank you. Well, while you're coming up, Curtis, you can, I just wanted, if you could explain to the public what OpenGov, what they provide the city as opposed to staff, and the oversight is by yourself, the city manager, council members. Just explain a little, if you would, please.
Sure, council member. So I think it's important to give a little bit of background on how we currently advertise our bids and requests for proposals. We upload those to the city website under the public notices page, and just to be frank, it's a little hard to find. So our exposure to the bidding network on a variety of fields, from engineering to public works to community services, is limited. So OpenGov is going to allow us to expand that. Also, the software that we're going to use, it's cloud-based. It's not going to be on the computers, right? Every staff can access it. Multiple staff members across multiple departments will use it, and our solicitations will be uniform. They will look uniform. And again, they'll reach a wide network. And so you mentioned oversight. Public Works will be the primary user of it because we do post the highest number of bids and RFPs, but Community Services also uses it along with Community Development.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I wasn't going to ask this, but as long as you're here, I might as well. There was another bidder that was a lot lower that wasn't selected, I saw, for two reasons. One was that OpenGov is going to do a lot more services for you. And the second one was the larger reach, which I think is one of our city's problem, is trying to get more bidders on our project. So could you, just as long as you're already up here, elaborate on those two items for us?
Sure. So I'll start with the second one. So the larger reach is really important. And OpenGov has had a presence in Southern California for a number of years, and it's actually growing. They're used, other cities that use them in the area, Thousand Oaks, Las Virgenes Water District uses them, Burbank, I believe Pasadena, San Marino, so a lot of the coastal cities, Santa Monica. So what happens is when we jump on that network, all the contractors, consultants, suppliers, vendors that are already using OpenGov are going to have immediate access to our solicitations as well. And the first item I think was cost and built-in functionality that you asked about. So OpenGov has a really streamlined platform. It's very intuitive to use. It also saves staff a lot of time because once we go through the setup phase, a lot of, I know in your day job you're familiar with submitting proposals and reading RFPs. So a lot of our RFP is template language. We have a lot of standard provisions that are used across the city. Those will always, all that will already be in the system along with other documents, and so we'll be basically putting in the scope. And so we're going to save hours on document preparation.
Excellent. Any other council questions on item number 12? None? Okay. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar with the item noted by Councilmember Bazagian.
So moved.
Second.
That was moved by Councilmember Shapiro, seconded by Councilmember Weintraub. Do any members of the public wishing to speak on these items? Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public? No? Okay. Again, the motion was made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, next item on our agenda is the El Camino Real Bell Marker Historic Designation, continued from February 12, 2025. And Community Development Director Klein will present the report. I think it's going to be Tom Bartlett.
I'm going to do my best. I hope that the PowerPoint's going to show up. Okay, so this is an opportunity to bring something to the council that is not a development project, which I have to admit is kind of fun for me. Something a little different. I do like to be able to do something that's historic preservation oriented. It's probably the more fun part of my job. So this is about an item that in the city or location and thing, object, landmark that everybody's familiar with, but most people generally, everybody here is familiar with. Most people generally probably walk by and don't even know it's there. And while it's innocuous to most, it does have some historic significance, which I'm going to just brief everybody about now, because I'm assuming that sooner or later we'll have an audience broader than just those in this room via, the city's website and whatnot. And so this will give a little background. The El Camino Real Bell that we have in Old Town is one of what was and is an entire network, basically up and down the state. And the El Camino Real itself traverses about 700 miles. So the bells are situated up and down that entire length. And that distance is basically between San Diego and Sonoma, and it links what were the four, and then Spanish, and then later Mexican presidios, so the forts, fortifications, and 21 missions. The bells were developed and distributed as a means of memorializing the El Camino Real bell. The El Camino Real. The bells were markers basically to memorialize that. So the irony, I guess, is we're looking at memorializing or making a landmark of a marker. But I'll explain that in a minute why, while it seems odd, it's appropriate. So as part of the underlayment, I want everybody to know that the El Camino Real, as a path of travel, a roadway linking the north and southern sections of the state, was designated by the state in 1963 as a state-registered historic landmark. So these bell installations, as I said, up and down the coast, they started in 1906, and they're intended to not only mark this old road, but also to serve as markers for those who are new to traveling in a new thing called the automobile. And so these bell markers actually played a significant role in the expansion of the region as the greater LA, and as places like Calabasas Highlands and Topanga and Park Moderne were being subdivided and offered up basically to persons who were leaving the city for a weekend to enjoy being out away from city life and away from their jobs and out in the open outdoors that we still enjoy in Calabasas today. So the marker we have in Old Town was part of this whole network here that you see on these photos. And they incorporated signs. The actual design of these included signs. Our marker doesn't have one of these direction signs left, unfortunately. But they always had a sign that you see like this that would show that the distance in a certain direction was the next mission. So Ventura, what have you. From inception, the other aspect that was very cool about this is this was an entire program that was developed and carried out by philanthropic organizations, and I've listed the principal ones here. And the State Automobile Association and the club, Automobile Club, you can see the connection right away, because what they did is they were doing the early mapping for the roads, and you'd be able to use their maps and the road signs, basically these directional markers, to make your way on what was then a very infant network of roadways and highways. So it is important to recognize that this is what happened. It took a collaboration of a lot of volunteer organizations, and many of them were women's organizations, and in particular the Native Daughters of the Golden West and the California Federation of Women's Clubs. So Mrs. A.S.C. Forbes, the name is maybe even something you'll recognize because it's on the bell. That's who cast the bell. She was the orchestrator of this program. She designed it, and it was firms under her control, her and her husband, that actually cast the bells as well. So they had several actual companies that they ran, and several of them did casting, so it's not clear in what records I was able to research which of the foundries cast the bells or if multiple were involved, but it was definitely the Forbes family. And you can see here on the right that there's one of the drawings, and if you take that drawing and go walk over to our bell, that's exactly what our bell is. It is what was designed in 1906. The design is from 1906, but our bell was installed in 1913. The overall height was just under 10 feet. And let's see here. I'll go back up a little bit. The woman that was in the casting, by the way, is Miss Forbes in that photo. Her footwear doesn't seem to be appropriate for casting an iron bell, but But that is the person who behind this whole project, and it really is amazing. So there were 14 different variations of bell designs with different profiles, dimensions, material that were produced and installed along the route. Our bell is one of the originals. The final design was approved by the El Camino Real Association Executive Committee in 1906, and the first bell was installed in 1906 in Los Angeles, and the second bell in San Diego later that same year. The plan was to actually distribute about 700 bells, because what they wanted to do was put one every mile. And by 1913, the time that our bell was installed, they had almost 400 installed. So it was a very, very deliberate and forceful initiative to get a lot done in just 7 years. And we were part of that. Now, then nothing happened except progress that included widening roadways and neglect. So the lack of and we lost bells in the state, and so that by 1974, fewer than 100 of the original bells remained. We were one of the still 100, thankfully. Between that time and continuing today, Caltrans has replaced many of the bells. And what you see along the 101, they're quite prevalent. You can't miss them. There are several in Thousand Oaks, and there's one just down our own, the grade here, you'll see off the road. That's one of Caltrans' replacement bells. They've installed hundreds of them, and they're just as meaningful in terms of representing the history, because they bring this to people's attention. But they're not the bells that I'm talking about, like our bell, which actually served that other purpose. They were part of people navigating by automobile, something they hadn't done before, to go to places like Calabasas as part of this route up and down the state. So I mentioned here that the replacement bells, we've got some of our own examples of those as well. So there are about 600 you'll find up and down the state now. So the State Department of Highways was charged with maintaining them. They still do now, and they replace them. A lot of those bells, by the way, that you see elsewhere are not real bells. They're concrete or some fiberglass or something. They're not cast iron. This is the bell at the San Buenaventura Mission in Ventura. Los Angeles is indicated to be 60 miles one way, and Santa Barbara Mission is 32 miles the other way. So if you were in your car and you're trying to figure out where to go, you go left or go right. Better have enough gas. So here's some other examples of bells over the years and their locations. In this one, San Gabriel Mission is 12 miles to the left. So they definitely played more than just, and you'll see the markings up here. That's the same as our bell right there. And this bell should look familiar. If you look carefully, it's right there. This is, shows the old oak tree that was there. And this is actually old time. There's the Kramer store. So that bell is still there. The oak tree is not. So there's some endurance for you. It's about 10 to 11 feet. Ours is about 11 feet. The original design showed 10, but that probably includes the longer staff. It has raised lettering. Its mounting ring inside is set up for a clapper, and it did have a clapper, but it's not there now. As I mentioned, it's an actual bell, unlike basically everything that's come since. 92 pounds. We have, no inch diameter. It's exactly what's in the drawings. And about 4 feet up is a brass dedication plaque indicating that it was installed in 1913 by the County Board of Supervisors, and it lists the supervisors who were presiding at that time. Here's a detailed photo of the bell. There are 2 dates you'll see there. El Camino Real, of course, is the memorialized corridor. 1769 denotes when the El Camino Real was initially proposed to be the roadway linking the missions and the Presidios. So if anybody wondered, why does it say 1769? That's why. And in 1906, we already talked about, that is when the bell was designed and originally cast. You'll see it's copyrighted 1906 by Mrs. A.S.C. Forbes. That's cast right on the back side of the bell. And that's another reason we know this is original. Here's the plaque on the front with the Board of Supervisors who were presiding at that time. And that, every part of the bell is there except the clapper. So based on all the research we've done, we know this is an original feature out there. It's something that's endured for 112 years, and it recognizes, it establishes California as part of this network and part of this statewide system that the state recognizes the El Camino Real as a historic pathway. This is our part of that pathway. That part of the journey that happened was taking place prior to even 1769 by indigenous peoples, 1769 by the Spanish, and then we had our own travel benefiting not only from the same pathway, but by these markers themselves, including this one, with something called an automobile. So this is an interesting little spot in Calabasas. It's where kind of the center point is culturally, and the HPC is recommending that the council consider this as landmark number 8 for the city. I do want to point out that there are persons who are not supportive of these, and the position there is they are believed to represent a support for conquering peoples, and one can certainly look at that and think that it's limited to that. As I've tried to characterize it, it recognizes a path of travel that precedes even that time, and it is indicative of the time it was put together in terms of the meanings and intents of the organizations that put this program together and put the bells there, and it then, in and of itself, with other bells up and down the state, served a purpose to get people to and from, and so it's historic in its own right for a wider variety of reasons than just the Spanish missions that were up and down the coast. There is another bell in Old Town. I don't want anybody to get confused. When you see this one, that's not the one we're talking about. This is across the street. And it is related in the sense that the Native Daughters of the Golden West, which you'll see is right here, one of their members who was involved was Grace Halsey Williamson, and she's memorialized by that bell. This was established or erected in 1967. We consulted a number of sources. I want you to know that we put this together thoughtfully and brought it to the commission for a thorough review. And it was based on all of that your HPC is recommending that the council consider nominating or establishing this as landmark number 8 for the city of Calabasas. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Tom. Are there any council questions before I open up the public hearing?
I have a mixture of questions and comments.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so who is the property owner?
The property owner is, it's a corporate entity, but we have contacted the property owner and discussed this with him. Sid Libovich is the president, if you will, or chairman of the company that owns the property, and he's completely supportive, and he communicated that to us in writing in an email that we have on file.
Okay. The other bells in Calabasas, and I think there are at least 3 other bells, maybe 4, they're all replicas, I assume, or later editions, correct?
Yes.
Are those included in the 600 or so estimated?
Yes.
So we have 4 right here.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things when I was researching this issue, and I think I gave you that last book, that Max Carrillo book.
Thank you.
It's a great book. I just keep running into roadblocks about the history of our bell. Like, I get the whole history of the bells, it's very elaborate, but do you have any idea where you could find out more information about our particular bell? Does LA County have a historical archive that would have that?
For
Would it
the
be
Board of
AAA?
Supervisors.
We were just down there.
I beg your pardon?
We were just down there.
Yeah, well, and we'll be down there again soon. We can check with their archivist.
Can you check with their archivist? Because it would be nice, you know, they used to have, I noticed in the book, there were pictures of bells being installed in other places. And surely would be nice to have the Board of Supervisors from 1912 out, you know, and a picture of that in the archives. It's very possible. You never know. Any idea why any idea why our location was picked for one of the original bells? Because it was so remote.
Yes and no. Well, considering they were going to do them every mile up and down for 700 miles, you have no choice but to go into some remote territory, which was partly the point, was to help people work their way even through the more remote areas on people who they understood, the various people who were doing this were out venturing out for the first time in this contraption called an automobile. And so, yeah, Calabasas was, for a long time, even with the native inhabitants, a juncture point, because it's basically at a watershed divide where you've got LA Basin to the east and you've got the Las Virgenes to the west and Malibu Creek. So to go through between those watersheds, the place to do it is where we go today, the Calabasas grade. That's why the 101 freeway is where it is today. It's basically right on top of what was the El Camino Real Bell. El Camino Real. So this was a place. And going then south, you had the Old Topanga Canyon Road. This was always a place of interaction with people traveling between places.
Any other books or source materials that you had available that would be helpful to just for the public to know a little bit more about the?
I've listed some in the PowerPoint, and
Okay.
what we can do is we'll look for some others.
So if you could forward the PowerPoint to Kendon so that he can, or if he has it, he could give it to us.
Absolutely.
I'd like the PowerPoint. Why? Okay. So now there are about 600 bells?
600, including all the replicas and replacements, yes.
Okay.
There were fewer than 100 of the original bells as of, I think it was 1974.
So there's probably very few original bells left in their proper places.
Correct, very few.
Okay. And one final thing, I know you're going to write this up, you know, for like our website. There's a page for each one, and you're going to do a little bronze plaque. The bronze plaque is going to be a small plaque probably, but for the write-up, you did mention the indigenous peoples. It would be nice to have some recognition of that in the text of the longer write-up. Not
Yes.
the bronze plaque, there's no room for it there, but I'm talking about, you know, just some recognition, because I am a little sensitive about some of the complaints about the bell history, although I do think it's important to recognize it. That is it. Thank you very much. I really did enjoy the presentation.
So before I go to the next council member, there's been a request. Tom, could you introduce the person that's at the chair next to you?
I'm really sorry. Joel Hayes is sitting next to me, and Joel is really the worker bee behind, and that's probably he's the excellent planning behind this effort that helped me get this information put together, and so.
Thank you very much for the intro, and welcome to City Council. I'm going to jump back to Councilmember Shapiro then.
Thank you for the report. Very thorough and detailed. I appreciate it. Sonoma. I looked on the map. I didn't see Sonoma, but I grew up in the area, so I know that area quite well. Vallejo, General Vallejo, and I believe it's right there in the square, if I'm correct. But no, this is great. I don't think we need it now for direction necessarily, because I think the phones tell everybody how far to go at this point. But I think this is great, and if I fully support this with the recommendations made by Councilmember Mazajian as well.
Thank you. And I actually really appreciate you bringing up, by the way, the way we get around and navigate today. You really don't even need a sign if you think about it. That's why it's, to me, it's really, it's timely to look at something like this, as simple as a thing as it was at the time. But this was the wayfinding system. You had a map, and you'd find a landmark. This was the landmark in Calabasas. Physical landmark that motorists look for to know they were in Calabasas on this spot on their map from the AAA. So it's really interesting. Generations that use the computers for navigating today have no concept of this. You made sure you had your map in your car, gas, spare tires, and then you looked for your sign on the bell.
Okay. Councilmember Weintraub?
It was a very good presentation. I don't have any further comments.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Thank you. Tom, that was an incredible report, really amazing. You're the definitive answer to any questions anybody has about the bell. And many of us who were not born in California as transplants, where maybe we remember Washington slept here signs all over the East Coast, to see this when I first came out, it was wonderful, you know, recognizing a piece of history that dates back and so many issues involved. So I love it. I'm so proud that we're making recognition of it, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Okay, and then I do have a few questions. We're looking to potentially designate this as a local historic landmark.
Correct.
I'm surprised that it's not already a state or county or, you know, larger national, a landmark on some other scale, because I remember as a kid in elementary school learning about the El Camino Real and the bells all those years back. How is it that some state or larger organization hasn't already done this themselves?
That's a great point. The state in '63 recognized El Camino Real and designated that a state historic resource. It's thematic, probably more than tangible in geography, even though it is tangible in geography. But the problem is our landscape has changed so much that, of course, you can't say that's exactly where certain historic people place their feet as they went on up to Sonoma. But thematically, the state already recognized the importance of that, just what you're talking about. And so that's designated, which includes our bell thematically. So we're part of that state recognition. This just, perhaps you could say it memorializes it for us. It's certainly a local landmark. That's why we're here before you. And our Historic Preservation Commission is empowered by the state to act in that capacity. And if we hadn't, this would have been a state matter. We would have taken this to the State Historic Preservation Commission and getting them to decide it's worthy of a local landmark listing. But it's a good point. Why has the county not done it? I don't know, but I'm not sure they would be interested in doing the individual markers. I think they'd probably prefer that the local entities do that. But we can look into that.
And then the last question was, you mentioned there is some opposition to it in your slide actually titled recent interest in removing them.
Yeah.
How recent?
I'm sorry.
The slide was titled recent interest in removing them. Could you tell us how recent? I mean, is there a movement still going on, or has it gained traction, or?
I'm not aware of anything that's gaining traction or current in terms of any activism, protests, anything of that sort. But I wanted to make note that when I say recent, I'm talking about in the last couple decades. We've been informed that that is an issue that has come up. In some of my research, that has happened. There's nothing that's been specific to here or even LA County that I'm aware of. But I think it is important to point that out, that in historic preservation, we want to look at the totality of it, and the totality of it includes indigenous peoples who are here. And I didn't want that to be left out of the discussion, that was all.
Okay. Well, thank you for being as impartial as you are on that. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to now open the public hearing. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the item, you can fill out a speaker card in the back of the room and get that to our city clerk. At this time, I have one speaker, Mr. Embry. Oh, that's for the next item. I'm sorry. I have no speakers. Any members of the public? Madam Clerk? Nope. Okay, so seeing no additional speakers, I'll now close the public hearing and open to council deliberations. Does any member of the council have additional comments? No? I have two then. One, if you could, Tom, put the slide back up with the picture of our bell. If we're going to make this an historic landmark, one of the thoughts I had when I was looking at the picture was the bell seems to have some corrosion on the post, and it looks like it needs a little extra maintenance. I'll pause a moment while we wait for the picture to come back up. So, and this, there's another slide that even shows that corrosion down on the bottom of the post there, around the plaque. And to the picture that you just had up a moment ago as well, it looks like we're using an historic landmark as a signpost. And I know it's a signpost, but we should probably, if you go to the next slide, are those our city?
Those are signs with the city, it has the city logo there. Right here.
They're not related to the bell, though, are they? I can't.
Well,
read
it
them.
does point out original El Camino Real.
Yeah, but
Oh, they are.
It would be up to the councils what you want to do, but my recommendation would be that we remove those because they're not actually part of this landmark, and that there would be a plaque in a stone in the ground that would be similar to what we've done for the bird track paths, the bird path, and this would be removed, and you'd see the bell the way it should be.
You're reading my mind.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I should have articulated that. I guess I assumed that would be what we would do.
And with my eyes, I was looking at those, and I couldn't tell if those were like no loitering signs, and we were just using the pole that happened to be there. The comment that Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Bazagian brought up about, elaborate on the plaque. It would be great to, maybe run that by the Historic Preservation Commission or however you see fit for a monument of this size. But you mentioned that there were fewer than 100 of the original bells. You mentioned that this is very rare. It would be great to get that more specific statistic on the plaque that, at this time in 2025, there's only so many left, if you can get that far. Yeah. You've just presented so much great information to us tonight. I'd hate to see that be lost in a city council tape. I'd rather see it captured on a plaque. So please feel free to check with the other members that are involved in this process and see how they feel about that. But I'm in favor of really doing something special here. The last thing I would say is this: when we talk about fixing the bell up and the corrosion and stuff, we've had other things designated as historic landmarks here in the city. The Masson House is one that comes to mind. I don't think at the time we planned on the amount of maintenance it would require on into the future. And I would ask that the Historic Preservation Commission staff look into grants for historic preservation, creating a fund. Maybe as a council we need to start putting some money away, but as we preserve these things for the future, we need to make sure that we have enough money to keep them into the future. I hate to see a piece of land that's dedicated for a landmark and the landmark isn't as presentable 30 years from now as it is at the time that we dedicate it. That's the last of my comments.
We will certainly do that.
So yeah, by all means, jump in.
Couple quick comments. Maintenance, please consult experts, because when you maintain historic objects, Sometimes they recommend you leave the item looking like it does because you take away the historic value if you paint over it or if you get rid of the corrosion, believe it or not. As far as your question on the age of the bell, my best research was that this is either somewhere between the 10th and the 20th oldest bell in the state. So it is actually not just 100, it's much older than that.
112 at least.
And then I don't know if you even know this, Tom, the answer. I don't want me to put you on the spot. They had left part of the tree, the old hanging tree there, the Old Town tree, you know, like a huge piece of it as like a little decorative thing. And then they took it out and put this thing in there, this part of a wagon or whatever. What happened to that tree stump?
Well, I know that we had the tall stump for a while, and then that got removed, but you're saying they left just a little part at the bottom?
Yeah, they had cut part of the tree and they had left it there just as a decorative little piece. Like it was just a piece of the log. But it looked very nice, and I don't know why they took it away. But anyways, that would be more historic than just that whatever that is there is nothing. It's just some old antique.
Yeah,
Anyhow, those are
I'm
my
not aware of
comments.
that, but to have that removed might be a good idea as well.
If you do find source material or ways I can find more information, I'd be happy to do some of the research with you on this particular bell, which is really should be the focus. I mean, we have plenty of information on the bells overall. We don't have much on this. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, back to your comment about documenting the history of this. One of the things that we can explore, and we can talk more about this with staff, as you know, we'll be limited to what's on the plaque, but perhaps we can add a QR code or something else that links it to the website that gives more of that information. But we'll explore different options. We know that even QR codes will probably change in 10 years. So something that is replaceable, that would be scannable or whatever that might be to link to information.
Okay, sounds good. Any other comments?
Maybe you can put a QR code in there so
That's what
people
he
can
said.
go permanently and take a look at it.
All right, if there's no other comments, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bazagian, a second by Councilmember Shapiro. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Bazagian and Councilmember Shapiro. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
So the next item on our agenda is the business registration program. Now, I have heard that staff might want to continue this item to another date. However, we do have already a speaker card on it, so Madam Clerk, what would be your recommendation?
I would recommend that the Community Development Director present his report and then open the hearing to allow any speakers.
Okay.
And still continue it to the date certain.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and have our Community Development Director, Michael Klein, will present the report.
Sorry if there was miscommunication. We're not going to present the report tonight because we anticipate that we'll get more people coming back. But we are recommending that we continue this to April 23rd, which is about 2 months from now. After speaking with the Chamber of Commerce, they expressed concerns that not enough businesses are aware of this, so they have offered to assist us in outreach. So we're going to work with the Chamber to try and get some outreach, and then we'll come back on April 23rd.
Okay. So there's a recommendation by staff that we continue this to a date certain. I do have a speaker card on this item who's come a long way, so I'd like to give Mr. Embry the opportunity to speak.
I would agree not to speak if you would continue the item indefinitely, just to table it.
I believe the recommendation is to continue to a date certain, so you'll have an opportunity to come back and speak then, but you're also afforded an opportunity to speak tonight if you'd like.
I'll speak briefly without a report. I don't need a report. I've read the report. I was certainly hoping that City of Calabasas wouldn't go down this rabbit hole ever. The proposal of $174,000 to run this program annually would probably go out to a third-party contractor who'd be doing mailings of renewals and occasionally registering some new business. And I noticed that if you're late paying your renewal, it's a 100% penalty. You have to double the fee. It just looks like this was a no-bid contract. It would ingratiate a third party, and it's a bunch of busy paperwork for businesses that there's no benefit. We have a Chamber of Commerce. City's not going to promote or publish a directory, yet this list would become a public record. And the proposal says to automatically send it off to the state of California for whatever they want to do with it. The question is really, what's the other shoe to drop on this one? Is there a purpose to this program? And is it a foot in the door for some other revision of what it applies to, that the home-based business exemption would disappear? Would this turn into a gross receipts revenue thing? Would this program need to be audited? Is that another expense that would come around? And who would do the auditing? Well, I'm familiar with the contractors and the proposal for here. I just don't think the city needs to go down this road. What might be beneficial is if you have a dog license, bicycle license, license somebody's cell phone in case they lose it, we could figure out where to get it back to them. There doesn't seem to be a nexus to any purpose here. So, as I said, I think you just need to get rid of it. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a recommendation of staff to continue. Any objection by council?
Nope.
Okay, so we'll continue that item to April.
We should have a motion to continue the hearing to April 23rd.
I'll
Okay.
make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Weintraub, a second by Councilmember Shapiro to continue this item till April 23rd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, we have a couple more items to go, but it's a little late. Does anybody want to take a break? No? James? You good?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right, we'll continue then. All right, item number 15, goal setting, presented tonight by Deputy City Manager Michael McConville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. So staff's really excited to bring this item to you tonight. I think when we talk about goal setting and strategic planning, staff are really able to understand and work jointly toward a set of common goals that we feel both unified and engaged about, and therefore makes us more efficient in carrying out the council's goals. So really excited to be talking to you tonight. I will say and want to mention that there is no goal setting or strategic planning occurring tonight. What we're doing is taking a quick look back at our fiscal year 22-23 strategic priorities, and then hoping to receive direction at a future date when we conduct a more thorough, robust goal setting and or strategic planning session. Okay, so for a little bit of background, in 2022, the City Council formally adopted the, sorry, I'll let that get on the screen if needed. No, should I just go? Okay, there we go. I got it. All right, so again, a little bit of background. In 2022, the City Council formally adopted the fiscal year 22-23 strategic priorities as a means of aligning staff resources with the priorities of the City Council. This is attached to the staff report. It was the city's first attempt really to formalize directing resources, again, in a more uniform, consistent, and really transparent way. Historically, to that, it was a mix of future agenda items, direction from maybe commissions, and just comments from the City Council. So it was the city's first effort, and it was a bit condensed, right? We did a lot of outreach. We did a survey, and we went through multiple meetings, and we're really proud of it at the end. And as a result, we got 12 really strong objectives out of it, which we'll touch on just a bit. As a result, currently as it stands today, almost all the objectives are complete or near complete, therefore necessitating the need to develop a new plan in the future, which again should come in a date in the very near term. Again, the requested action tonight is not to look at any specific goals to conduct in the near future, but really evaluate the current strategic planning and goal setting that the city council and city staff go through, and then hopefully consider some staff recommendations as it relates to future strategic planning and goal setting as we kind of build that muscle memory, both for next year and really all years moving forward. Okay, so strategic plans, what are they? Well, according to ICMA, strategic planning is a necessity to align limited resources with organizational priorities. And as we all know, there is almost an infinite amount of asks that maybe the city or the city council have, but a finite amount of resources, whether that's money or time or some other type of resource that we have here. So the question is really, how do we properly allocate the staff time that we have and monies that we have in an appropriate and efficient and direct way? So the key benefits of conducting a strategic plan are that they facilitate communication. So sometimes it acts as a bridge for the city council, staff, and the public to really be on the same page. Sometimes members of the public believe that we have one goal and city council might have a different, and even staff. And so we have one uniform document, one uniform guiding principle that really makes sure that we're consistent on the same page. 2, it guides decision making, right? So it assists in resolving sometimes controversial issues or matters maybe with unclear consensus, both at the council level, maybe at the staff level, and maybe at the commission level. 3rd, it prioritizes organizational work, right? So it allows city directors, city manager, and others to strategically allocate resources to ensure that we can carry out the direction of the council in an efficient way. And then 4th, it ensures accountability. It makes sure that staff performance and achievements are met both in a timely and efficient manner. All right, so with strategic plans, there's lots of different flavors that different cities and organizations use. The strategic plans adopted by some of the larger organizations, think LA County, SCAG, League of California Cities, even the Water District, are quite robust. They're quite thorough. They can be anywhere from 50 to 100 pages long and touch on mission and vision and values and so on and so forth. Whereas you have some, like the smaller cog cities out here, Malibu, Agora Hills, Calabasas, that really are goal-oriented and maybe a year out, and that's what works for them. So there's anything from 1 year to 10 years out, and anything in between is something that the city council and really our city can choose. It's really important to think about what's best for us and how we attain our goals. So speaking of our flavor and getting back to the fiscal year 22-23 strategic priorities, we adopted in 2022 the 12 priorities, or excuse me, the 12 objectives that you see here, which were detailed action items and deadlines. So what we have here, and I'll go through them really quickly, these are condensed. We have 7 complete objectives. We have 3 in progress objectives. And then we have 2 ongoing objectives. Now, what's the difference between that? Well, complete is obvious, right? We developed our water resiliency plan. We opened the community center. We built out the Wild Walnut Park, right? Very successfully, and very happy to do that. In progress is really something that means we're within about 3 months. We're very close, and we see the finish line and know we're going to finish that very quickly. However, ongoing, there is 2 there, and that's again, property acquisition and cell towers, right? So that, unfortunately, those are more outside the scope, maybe even authority of the city, and we have to rely on others or partners. So we don't have the either the tool set, the resources, or the capacity or well, back to authority to necessarily carry some of those out. We have to partner with others, incentivize them, and so on and so forth. Again, still on top of our mind and still driving staff and the direction and priorities that we have. It's just something that might be outside of our control. All right, so again, just taking a brief look at the strategic priorities for fiscal year 22-23, wanted to offer a high-level evaluation of them so far. So like I said earlier in the presentation, the fiscal year 22-23 strategic priorities, it marked the city's initial effort to try to align the resources with our organizational objectives. It was expedited, right? We did not conduct a mission or vision and have an outside facilitator come on, and primarily focused on goal setting, right, for that next year or two. And I think when we went through it, it was, we didn't know what we didn't know. However, it was a good opportunity to go from where we were to where we are now, which is a much more proactive approach. And so that's really what staff is after, right? Balancing that reactiveness with proactiveness. And so that's certainly a positive we have here. Moving on to the next point. So while overall successful, staff noted just some of these potential challenges that we could address while developing that next plan that we're thinking about. So one, making sure that we have funding availability for those projects or those goals or those objectives that we have, right? Really linking it to the budget. And if not, making sure that we put a concerted effort with some type of grant funding source, which hopefully we will have a partner with very soon. But just, again, building out those best practices that some other cities have and we just don't have yet is something to keep in mind. Two, so focusing on goals that are within the city's scope and capacity, right? So that really leads to some of the ones that are still ongoing, right? So it could be a land acquisition. Well, we can only do that if there's land available for sale, right? We can only move so fastly or so quickly if we need to work with the county to get some type of approval on some item that we have. So being cognizant of the fact of what we can and can't control would really make us be most effective, but also be transparent in what we can actually accomplish within a year or two. And side note, it's great to have aspirational goals, right? And certainly shoot for the stars here, but also balance that out with reasonableness if we really are trying to be efficient and devote these resources. Third, just connecting one-year goals to the city's longer-term strategy. So many of these goals were more than 1 year, and that's good, but some were short-term in 1 year. And so what we have to think is not necessarily just 1 term out, or 1 year out, excuse me, but maybe 3 years out or 5 years out. One example has been used once or twice before was maybe bringing some type of Olympic event here. Well, if that were the case, we couldn't start, we had to have started maybe last year, right, or yesterday, or maybe a month ago. That's just something that is very difficult to occur in a year, right? Whether that's meetings with other folks or just laying the infrastructure. I'll use maybe a more pertinent example is maybe if we have a request for a variety of programs in our community services department, and we lay a lot of staff infrastructure and time and resources, making sure that that we continue to rely on those resources, maybe not have too much of a shift away from all of the investment that we made, both in staff time and programming and so on and so forth. Okay. So we understand the strategic plan a little bit at a high level. We've looked at our strategic priorities. We thought about what we need to do next. Staff has 2 primary considerations that we'd like the city council to think about. One is using an outside facilitator. So again, this was the last strategic priorities and goal setting was conducted completely in-house, right? Again, there is a certain benefit from an outside facilitator. They offer an unbiased perspective. They can mediate the discussions between the council and hopefully staff, and maybe just get and dig out some things that we naturally just are not able to do. It also ensures that all voices are heard and that things can move forward in a very efficient and collaborative process. Second, we would want to pair that outside facilitator with an off-site retreat, and that just really means an off-site meeting, right? So getting out of this building, right, getting in a more comfortable situation, distraction-free, enabling all of us to participate and focus really in a unique kind of more intimate manner. And in doing so, letting that communication flow and some things rise to the top that, again, may just not happen in a much more formal internal environment. All right. So in closing, we looked at our strategic priorities. We have a couple of items that we want the city council to think about for our next strategic planning and goal setting session. So at this point, staff, myself, the city manager, assistant city manager, are looking for direction on how the city council wants to proceed on its next goal setting and or strategic plan. We are happy to take direction, and maybe if there's some evaluation that can occur up here, and we're happy to take that as well. But at this point, no strategic planning or goal setting is occurring tonight. Purely direction for that next meeting that we hope to occur and be funded before the end of the before the start, should I say, of the fiscal year, so that we can take those priorities, take those goals, and provide them into the 26-27 budget. That concludes my remarks. Again, City Manager Amik, Assistant City Manager Trio are available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none. We'll go to council questions and comments. Why don't I go ahead and start with Council Member Shapiro.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that report, Michael. I'll just make a couple quick comments. One is, I don't know what the cost would be, but I don't think, based on what I've seen, that we necessarily need a facilitator. I think we could work together as a council to come up with a strategic priority, and I may be the only one thinking that, I don't know. But that was my initial thought. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Councilmember Albert?
Thank you, Mayor. Very, very good report, Michael. Thank you. When I look back on what we've accomplished from 23 to 22, 23, I didn't think we'd get half of it done. And it's amazing when you put a focus on something and you've got a target and you plan on it. So from that launch, what I see, and I've experienced it in my background, and that is doing a retreat. I love the idea of a retreat. I think the ideas flow much better. You have a chance to think, particularly when you have a facilitator who's done this before, very experienced at it, and can make things roll. And the cost factor, we hope it's not too much, but it pays for itself over and over by implementing a process that's repeatable. So you want to have a long-range, mid-range, and short-range plan, and you may want to revisit the short-range more frequently and touch upon the mid- and long-range at some point. The facilitator would know best about that. I think we all have a lot of ideas, and the best place to do that would be to express it. And good ideas come out of that. So, ideas get formed and manipulated a little bit and changed, become more inclusive. Judging from the success we had, I know we can do something like that that's very practical. I hope my other council members feel the same. But I think we'd be well served by doing that. Those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Weintraub.
Thank you for the good report. You just want us to comment on the facilitator and the...
I think it's also an opportunity to talk about what works well, what doesn't work well for the city council in terms of how we conduct strategic planning and goal setting and how direction is provided to staff, but also considering the recommendations from the staff report, right, of those two items, offsite retreat, third-party facilitator.
So before I answer those, the only things that I would add about strategic planning is for us to have fewer goals that we get accomplished, and also to really leverage on our county and state and other partners. We've taken on a lot of things that we just can't do. Like, for example, SCE. Like, We want to battle them. They're not listening, but maybe, you know, maybe they report to the state. And when we have county issues, like, we need to street racing, the sheriff, like, we're trying to accomplish everything, and we don't have the authority or the power to do that. So when we do this next time, I'd really like to, okay, we want to accomplish this, but that goes to, you know, the assembly member, and staff works with the assembly member, or, I don't know, another entity. So that's where I would want to focus, just picking a few things that we can accomplish. I mean, for example, the landfill came up, and everyone was able to drop what they were doing to focus on something so important, and I appreciate that. Like, I want us to be able to be responsive and not be tied down to things that, I don't know. So I'm fine with a third party and off-site, but I just want it to be more focused. I mean, last time we threw like the kitchen sink at everything, and we accomplished a great amount. I applaud us for that. But so many of our issues, I've come to realize, involve other agency partners, and I want to focus on that, on really leveraging those other government entities to do really what they're supposed to be doing. So those are my comments.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I agree definitely with the fewer goals comment. I didn't have that in my mind until you said it, but that makes a great deal of sense. What I think we ought to be doing is having, I mean, I don't know about a retreat. I don't think that serves great purpose, because we want public input too, I'm assuming. This isn't just a council discussion. So I would have it at a workshop here. I mean, we traditionally have a workshop sometime around this time of year anyways, at the beginning of the year, so I would do that. I'm not even sure, you know, Pam, we were told back in the days when we had a psychologist, we were told that we couldn't do like therapy sessions off-site with public money in a group meeting. It had to be in the city. And has the rule changed? Can we, I mean, I think we can do a retreat. I think there's some exception, but I think it has to be limited.
You can certainly do an off-site, but typically under the Brown Act, anytime you meet, it does require meeting within the jurisdiction of the city. And if you do meet as a council as a whole, it does require public participation.
So that if we're having a retreat where we're giving direction, that would be something we'd have to do here, correct? In the city
It can be
limits?
done off-site, just so long as there is the ability for the public to access and participate and observe.
And Mayor Pro Tem, if I could clarify that, when Michael and Scott and I were talking off-site, we're thinking Founders Hall, Community
Oh,
Center, something like
okay.
that.
All
It
right.
could be in another venue where we're not sitting at the dais where it's so formal, but it's around tables, it's facilitated,
That's
there's
fine.
that type of discussion.
I misunderstood when I was
Yeah,
talking about a retreat.
and very clearly
I'm
it has to be
assuming
open to
it's
the public.
outside the area. So if it's not outside the area, I think that's a good idea, just to, we could have, if you're calling it a retreat or whatever you call it, community center, Founders Hall, wherever, that'd be fine. But I like because we do a workshop traditionally, in more recent years, a workshop has been kind of morphed into just extra agenda items being thrown onto there and not really being a workshop. This would be an ideal thing for a workshop. So those are my only comments.
All right, and I'll echo what's been said already. I would be in favor of a third-party facilitator. An off-site workshop would be, it sounds like the preferred option. I'd be on board with that as well. I do want to share with my fellow council members that I said to Kendon, this is going to be our first meeting in January. We're going to talk about strategic priorities and get organized and get on the same page and set some goals. And what always happens is the urgent overtakes the important. And the items that we're dealing with now are very important, but SCE, the wildfires, now the landfill, unfortunately, these things take up our time so quickly that our staff is left with no direction to proceed with in our absence. So I think this goal setting is really important. I know it was started a couple of years back, And again, priorities have, they haven't changed. I think we all have the same priorities. We just, we end up getting sucked into what's in the moment. So it's important we do this. I'm in favor of it. If there's no other comments, is there a motion? Oh, another comment.
Very brief comment. I don't know. I of course support the recommendation and my colleagues' comments as well to have a facilitator and a third party and an offsite within the city. So of course I support that.
All right.
And Mayor, if I could.
Sure.
I'm going to actually turn to our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Trujillo, on this a little bit, who's gone through this process. And Scott, if you wouldn't mind just talking about the experiences that you've seen. And while he's organizing his thoughts, just let me preface that. As you saw tonight with the employees that came in and were recognized, we have varying years of experience. We have, newer employees. We have very tenured employees. I would venture to say, Council, that you have a group of employees that are some of the best you've ever had. And they are really looking for your vision and your direction. And once you turn us loose, we're going to make you proud. But we just need to know what that vision is. And we want to do the best. We want to do what's right. We want to build the city. We just want to see exciting things happen. But we're even missing some of the basic discussions. For example, next year is our 35th anniversary. We haven't even started talking about that yet. There's so much happening that I think even if the 5 of you were asked in a forum or individually with constituents, what's the top 5 goals for the city? I think we'd have 25 different answers. And as Councilmember Weintraub mentioned, those 25 different answers that you come up with are very important, and they're all important to our community. But where do we dedicate the resources, for example, that Mr. McConville talked about? Where do we dedicate the time? And you have a team with the assistant city manager, the deputy city manager, and myself, that we can focus on some of those urgent things, some of those things that are pressing. But once we know the vision, we can turn the team loose so they can keep working on those other things, so those are happening in the background. And I'll let Mr. Trujillo add to that.
Those are great comments that Kendon has, and probably one of the most common questions that we receive as management is, what are the goals of the council? Kendon's exactly right, that this team is extremely talented, and you give us a task, whether it's the landfill or what have you, they go. And they go full board, do the research after hours, et cetera, because they're dedicated. So allowing this kind of best practice in this tool will, I think, really enlighten the city and elevate our game to a place where we're all rowing in the same direction. So again, we've utilized this in other cities, and again, it's a best practice of ICMA. And the value of it, it's a little bit different when you're off site and you're out of the decorum of this type of room, and those candid conversations come, and you have this third-party facilitator that allows the candor. I've seen examples in which department heads have run the actual facilitation of it, but the problem is as staff, it's really difficult for us to tell you no, or you know what, let's pivot. So having that third-party facilitator is a real powerful tool, and you'll be surprised, I believe, with some of the input coming forth that you didn't think of before. So we'll have probably new items to tackle, and at the end of that year or that 18 months and so forth, I think you'll be very, very pleased on the accomplishments, because they're now smart. There's these specific goals, they're measurable, and we know exactly where we're going, because we're rowing in that same direction. So I'm look forward to this. Is very exciting, and coming back to the team when they say, what are those specific goals? We can now share with them what your vision is and let us loose.
Any additional comments? No, then I would entertain a motion from the council.
I'll move that we proceed as directed unanimously by council and suggested by staff.
I'll second that.
And just to clarify, that's with a third-party facilitator at an off-site location within the boundaries of the city of Calabasas?
Correct.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank
All right, we have one more item. I think it's a little more organized than it was before. We've talked about this before, so I think we can just push on through if everybody's good. All right. All right, this is the Standing and Temporary Advisory or Ad hoc Committees presented by our City Manager, Kendon Meek.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Well, Michael brings up the slides. There we go. We've had this on the agenda for several meetings and are bringing it back this third time. I worked with our city clerk to actually put this item on after our goal setting strategic planning discussion because I think it really ties well together. As we talk about standing committees and ad hoc committees, I think one of the things that we want to be clear tonight is we don't have to make decisions tonight. We don't have to create committees. We don't have to create ad hoc committees. We can wait till we have some of that goal setting, strategic planning discussions, and then build committees and ad hoc committees around those specific priorities. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go forward. So next slide, please. As outlined in the staff report, and I'd like to have our city attorney talk about this a little bit more, the difference between standing committees and ad hoc committees. I've listed here that standing committees have continuing subject matter jurisdiction, and they're scheduled either by fixed charter, resolution, or formal action, and they are subject to the Brown Act. And so, Pam, let me go to the next slide with the ad hoc committees and look at the difference there, and then Pam, if I could have you comment on this a little bit. So ad hoc committees are created with less than a quorum. They're not perpetual, so they don't continue. There's a specific focus, and they're dissolved once that task is done. So Pam, if you could provide us a little bit more of the legal context between the difference between these standing committees and the ad hoc committees. And next slide while she's doing that.
Yeah, sure. I think Kendon explained it pretty well. These standing committees are established by the council, and they have 2 members of the council or less, but they do have continuing subject matter jurisdiction. It may be a specific subject matter, but it is continuing in the sense that there isn't a time frame or a completion of the subject matter in sight. And as a result of that, they are subject to the Brown Act with noticing and agenda requirements and public participation. Obviously, with what Kendon just explained with ad hocs, it is very specific and it is limited in terms of the subject matter and the time frame. Prime example, the landfill ad hoc subcommittee to deal specifically with issues related to what is currently going on at the landfill.
Thank you, Pam, and we'll come back to that. And next slide, please. Now we do have some basis for our committees in our protocols. The mayor has the prerogative of making these assignments. The council determines and defines the jurisdiction and the subject matter of the committees. And council committees may recommend a course of action, but they never replace the decision-making authority of the council. That always needs to come back to the council. Next slide, please. When creating the committees, as we've talked about, I think there's some questions that we might ask is, how does that committee or ad hoc committee align with city council goals and strategic priorities? This goes back to our previous item on the agenda. What is the purpose or the end goal of the committee, ad hoc committee? What are we trying to accomplish with that? And then finally, will the subject matter of the committee or ad hoc committee duplicate or overlap the area of an existing commission? I think one of the things that we've noticed as staff as we've explored this is we have several standing committees that the subject matter overlaps with commissions. And so what we're finding is our commissions are bored, they're anxious, they want to do more, but a lot of the work is being done by the council and staff in standing committees or task forces or whatever we wanted to call them, because it moves faster. And so it creates this vacuum or this void, and so then what happens is our commissions start to look for things to do. And without the direction, without the guidance of the council, we recognize really quickly that they start to create subcommittees, subcommittees of subcommittees, event committees, and all of a sudden, without that direction of what they're supposed to be working on, it becomes out of hand. Again, when we look at does the subject matter of the ad hoc committee or the standing committee take away responsibilities that could be passed on to a commission? Next slide, please. I want to go through our existing, what we used to refer to as task forces that we set up last year, and go through these one by one. And this is an open discussion. And council, what I'd like to do at this time, Mayor, if it's okay, is as we go one by one, instead of waiting till the end of the presentation, we can just talk about these as they come up. Again, we don't have to determine tonight every committee or standing committee. That could be an ongoing discussion. We do currently have a budget committee that was set last week, or 2 weeks ago in our February 12th meeting, and our first meeting is on Friday. And so we're going to move forward with that as a standing committee, and we worked on the agenda, and that will be a formal posted agenda for that meeting. Next one, please. Commission's procedures and council protocols. The council members that were on this committee or task force were working on council protocols, and there's a desire to move forward with commission procedures or commission handbook. We see this as more of an ad hoc committee. It meets that definition. It would have a finite purpose in the end when it's done, and the mayor's recommendation is for Mayor Pro Tem Bazagian and Mayor Kraut to continue on that ad hoc committee. So with that, Mayor, I'd like to pause there and open that up to discussion if there's any from you as the mayor on those recommendations or on the purpose of that ad hoc committee.
Any comments by council? No. Okay, and that ad hoc committee would be simply to get the commission procedures completed, which I think we already have a plan forward for. And once that's completed, that ad hoc committee would be disbanded.
Correct.
Mayor Bazagian, are you good to serve on that?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, I'm getting a head start for you. Mayor Pro Tem Bazagian, are you
Demote
good
me,
with
you promote me, and you never call me Mayor Pro. No, you can call me council member, that's fine. Yes, I told you I would do that.
that? All right, so if there's no other objection,
Okay,
we can
thank
move on to
you.
the next one.
Economic development. There was a really good discussion when we talked about this earlier on. This really could be a standing committee if the council so desires it, but we'd have to figure out the ongoing nature of the discussion and what would be the study area for going forward. We do not have this as a recommendation as a standing or an ad hoc committee. That would be something that the council would need to decide. Initially, when we thought about this as a standing committee, the recommendation was to have Councilmember Albrecht and Councilmember Weintraub continue to serve on that. And if we were to move towards more of an ad hoc committee, and again, we don't have to make all of these decisions tonight, but we've talked about the LA 28 Olympics. That could encompass tourism, transportation, events. I even put down short-term rentals. I think there's people in our community residents that may want to rent their home during that time. And our current ordinance states that rentals have to be more than 31 days. Again, that's not something we have to decide now, but that might be something where people may want to rent their homes for 2 weeks or 3 weeks during that time. And that could be recommendations that come back from the ad hoc committee. There could also be, one of the items that Michael mentioned in our strategic planning was looking at an economic development plan. What does that cost? What does that encompass? What is its purpose? It could be focused on business attraction or retention, development. And we also could create an ad hoc committee. It could fall under economic development or another place specific to a 2026 sales tax initiative. That falls under one of our previous strategic priorities of fiscal resiliency. So again, looking for direction from the council of whether we want a standing committee, and if we do, what is the subject matter of that standing committee, or if we want to create one or more ad hoc committees. Again, we don't have to create all of them tonight. We could start with one and add to them as we go forward, and the appointees for that.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Thank you, City Manager. And you know, preparing for tonight's meeting and this particular agenda item, I gave a lot of thought to it. And I'm very excited about doing an ad hoc. The reason I say that is because when you have a committee, and having been on committees, we would have an agenda ourselves, so most of those agenda items didn't get worked on. We're working on one at a time, maybe two, but this gives a focus, a special focus. So I'm all in favor of it. I'd like to form an ad hoc committee for LA 28 because we're getting behind the 8 ball. We need to get this message out promptly. And right behind it, certainly the zoning, as far as attracting business, the zoning recognition of different areas. I'm working with the planning department on that. We've talked about that for different needs. Then right behind that's the sales tax. So these are the three things that I've actually have I wanted to discuss. So the way it came out, it's perfect.
Councilmember Weintraub?
I would also support doing an LA 2028 ad hoc committee.
Okay, and for the LA 2028 committee, where I'm hearing the names Albrecht and Weintraub, any objection or comment on that? Okay, so we'll call that our first ad hoc committee under economic development. Keep in mind that the other possible ad hoc committees don't have to be established tonight, could wait till after the goal setting. They don't have to be the same members as an ad hoc committee. We're free to mix it up. So anybody else who has one or more passion on the screen, go ahead and speak up.
The only thing I'd recommend, and the economic development plan's good, certainly there's a lot there, but in light of the recent fires, especially Palisades, Malibu, close by, I'd like to see if we could have this ad hoc committee find ways to, and staff, incentivize businesses to come here. There's a lot of businesses that were either burnt down or so bad that people need to move, in addition to finding homes or temporary residences while they rebuild. So certainly an opportunity for us to make other businesses welcome in our city.
Okay, a good comment, but for an economic development plan ad hoc committee, is there anybody who wishes to establish that now, or are we going to wait till later?
I really like the idea. I just thought we would go into more detail later, but I really like it. I was also thinking when David was speaking, that's something to talk to our chamber about too. I wonder if there's any outreach or with the business, with the chamber. I know they've done some stuff with the, like, not Malibu, what's it called? There's like Palibu, yeah. But no, I really like it, so.
So I think what I'm hearing from council right now is that we'd start with the LA 2028 ad hoc committee, and maybe after goal setting or strategic planning, we'd come back and look at some other economic development opportunities.
Makes sense. Yep. Okay. Good. Next slide.
Yeah.
Public safety and emergency preparedness. This is one that really could overlap with our Public Safety Commission, and I think, however, I think there's areas that the council is very focused on, and so I listed some of those as possibilities if we were to choose ad hoc committees. Again, this could be a standing committee if the council so desired, if we define the purpose and the ongoing subject matter of that. Ad hoc committees could be the Palisades Fire, Kenneth Fire After Action Plan, really focusing on that. And that might even tie in Councilmember Shapiro, even on that After Action Plan, not just how we did as our EOC, but as there are other things that we look at as, that stem from that. That could be an opportunity there. Fire-wise communities, I think we're at 7 HOAs and neighborhood associations right now, which means we have 40-something to go if you know, we're trying to cover the town. Crime reduction initiatives, whatever those are. Again, those could each be separate ad hoc committees. Not all have to be established tonight, looking for the importance and the priority from the council.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
So-
Councilmember Weintraub.
So crime reduction initiatives, this was kind of what I was talking about earlier. Home and retail burglaries, we can do like public safety announcements and stuff, but we can't do that on our own. You know, we have partners for that. Street racing, partners for that. So like that's where I really would love to like I know you speak to the captain, we work with our deputies, but really like honing in on that. So
I love that. I think you hit on something earlier when you mentioned that, is that often we take on responsibilities that aren't ours. And I think there's a frustration from the community that they don't see fully the action as much as we try, but it, you know, we almost have to place the blame on the sheriffs, you know, for the crime, and we don't, Deputy, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
They're doing a great job. But what we need to do is work more cohesively with them, and that might be looking at trends, that might be looking at how we augment with other.
Or if I love the crime reduction initiative ad hoc committee, but if we're going to do that, include the sheriff at our
Correct.
meeting. Like, because instead we have these meetings, come up with ideas. It's like too many meetings. Just
Yeah.
put everyone in a room together. So that's where I mean, I love this. I love all of these. So I would love to be on any of them. So, but crime reduction initiatives, I just want to make sure that the other agencies are involved in those conversations.
Councilmember Shapiro?
Yes, just being brief, I agree with Alicia, crime reduction, absolutely. I also think well, they're all good.
Yeah.
But number one, especially in light of what we're going through, would be important. But I think if they have to be ad hoc as opposed to standing, or that's a recommendation, then that.
And Councilmember Shapiro, I think you may have picked up on something too, is we could create an ad hoc committee focused on fire-wise communities, but that's already happening.
Right.
So, you know, we have that in process. The HOAs and neighborhood associations are already doing that. So it'd really be more staff just reporting back to that committee on what's being done. So maybe our focus is on crime reduction initiatives and
number one.
And
then
one
policies.
and three, yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
I would,
I'd be happy to serve
me
on
too.
that, if you want it as a standing or ad hoc, whatever you recommend.
I think ad hoc is good.
I somehow I want to, I look at 1 and 2, and do you need 2 separate ad hoc committees for that?
I don't even know if we need to, because staff's doing it. Like, we don't,
Okay.
like, I don't even think
Okay.
council.
I'm interested in 3, if there is room on it for a second council member. If there's already multiple council members who want to be on it, that's fine. But you know, being my background, I would think I could add to that. But we can discuss that later. I mean, we don't have to. We're not doing it tonight, are we?
Well, we can.
we have been on some of the others, we've been designating council members for these.
So where are we now on item, the third one, crime reduction initiatives, is the one I would be particularly interested in. The other ones, the fire issue ones, I don't have that expertise or anything.
Okay, so the first question on this is standing committee or ad hoc committees. If we do a standing committee, remember, it has to be noticed and agendized and follow the Brown Act and have public comment, and doesn't get to move as quickly because of that. On the other hand, as an ad hoc committee, I think we could look at each one of these, but let's go ahead and start with number 3, because that seems to have the most attention. If we were to have an ad hoc committee on crime reduction initiatives, I've heard 3 council members want to participate in that.
But is
And
it
I think
really
we
an
need to
ad
narrow
hoc
that down to
committee?
2.
I mean, it's not really an ad hoc committee. It's an open-ended, constant thing.
It would only be an ad hoc committee to the extent that you'd want to deal specifically with home and retail burglaries, like potentially drafting an ordinance or some other method for reduction of those.
Okay, but that's
Street
always going to be
racing, yeah.
around, so I'm assuming that we'll always want that committee to do things.
If that's the case, then it would be a standing committee. I mean, unless you have a specific goal in mind for that type of crime reduction. For street racing, what would you like to do? What would you like to achieve with respect to street racing, whether it's an ordinance or getting more patrols? That would be an ad hoc committee, but otherwise it would be a standing committee
Okay,
for crime
because street
reduction.
racing I can see being ad hoc, but home burglaries is going to be a regular committee. I mean, I don't see how you get around that. Well,
Well,
they're
there were,
all,
what about like an ad hoc committee? I mean, there were some recent burglaries that took place and like honing in on like those specific burglaries.
it seems to me over the years that the burglars get more and more sophisticated and find different things to do that we need to react to. So I don't know, I mean, I realize ad hoc is easier to manage, but if we're being kind of honest with ourselves, we're always going to have a need for looking at strategies to combat the changing face of how these things are being accomplished.
So again, that could be something, do we task the commission, the Public Safety Commission with
Well,
that?
they're looking for things to do.
But
I
they don't
know.
meet, they meet so infrequently. That's the problem.
Well,
Unless they meet more.
I'm just throwing in my 2 cents.
Can
I'd
we
like to
break-
weigh in on this.
And we can break them apart, right?
The public safety is just like you say, it's a constant. It doesn't vary, it's not a specific item unless it happens. So maybe the thought of having a standing committee, and then that standing committee can shoot off and have an ad hoc committee, or maybe, Pam, what's the thought, we could send some of the items from the standing committee down to the Public Safety Commission and have them work on it and come back to the standing committee with some of their suggestions.
You can certainly do that, but if the commission doesn't meet often enough, you're left with the same problem of the inability to act when, it's not frequent. So it looks like there's like a twofold problem here. One, determining, whether you want an ad hoc or a standing committee, and if you do want an ad hoc committee, which committees, what specific subject matter you're going to cover, and then two, how does that interact with the Public Safety Commission?
Well, the idea of public safety is a constant. And the pressure should be constant. So I just don't see that as an ad hoc committee. I don't see what's wrong with having it as a committee, a permanent committee. I think we have one now.
Sure. Councilmember Shapiro.
Yes, and we do it, we've had one, and it's listed as public safety, emergency preparedness, because, and I think there's, without a doubt, even though we may have 25 items with a third party, those are the two of the most important items for all 5 of us up here in the city, and depending on what happens, they become more important and more urgent. So again, I want to be involved. If it's not a standing committee, I don't think burglaries are going to go away. They go in cycles, as we've learned. Whether there's groups that come in, come out, they get more sophisticated, they put cameras in. And we've learned all this through time. So that's going to keep going. Street racing, until we find a way to curb it, is going to keep going also. And again, we don't get to do everything. We bring it to council. Council decides. Sheriff's involved. As far as an after-action plan, in the last time we went through this, the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem usually attended those meetings. They were regional, and they took about 6 months to a year. So that is, I don't know if that becomes an ad hoc committee. It might make sense. But as far as emergency preparedness and public safety, that was a committee, because those 2 items cover so many potential things, not just this. So my 2 cents, and yes, I'm very interested in that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, I don't hear a specific purpose with a beginning and an end, as what was designated up here, crime reduction initiatives, meaning come up with the initiatives and close the ad hoc committee. What I'm hearing is it's an ongoing thing, so my question to
I have
Councilmember
one.
Shapiro and Weintraub is, do you want to keep it as a standing committee?
I would love to address street racing as an ad hoc committee.
Okay.
What about the rest of the ideas?
No, right, but if we're breaking them apart, like street racing, it's every day. That's what I hear, we hear about it. So I think that there's some things that we could be doing that we're not doing, that we could have a meeting about to address.
And keep in mind, we can have more than one ad hoc committee.
Right.
So if we have an ad hoc committee on street racing to come up with ideas to combat street racing, and once you've accomplished your goal, the ad hoc committee will be disbanded. Doesn't mean that street racing is done. It means that you've come up with all of your plan to combat street racing.
If I heard right, last time we discussed this, once the ad hoc committee is dissolved, we could have, in a sense, and Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could have ad hoc committee for street racing for 2025, and then we can redo a new committee for 2026 and 2027. So
No.
I think
That's
that's
just
where
a-
starts to get
yeah.
dicey
Right.
because.
I know it gets a little dicey, but
Yeah, because it, again, what we're doing is trying to bypass the Brown Act. I would, I think, go back to the mayor's recommendation. If this is going to be a standing committee, let's create it as a standing committee. Now, I think one of the things that we have to understand is if we invite Captain C2, or if we invite Lieutenant Foss or Deputy Di Matteo, that's a public meeting, so others from the public could be there listening
Right.
and participating. And I think we just have to be aware of that, and then the council would have to define what the subject matter is of that, and that could just be crime reduction initiatives and emergency preparedness.
Right.
That could be the standing.
And I would support that. And the question is, if it is not going the way we envision, can we come back and council then turn it into ad hoc committees?
Yeah, you always have that option,
Okay.
yes.
So I would definitely want to be part of that and have it be a standing committee, public safety, emergency preparedness.
So Councilmember Weintraub?
I would like to address street racing as an ad hoc committee.
Okay, and you're not interested in public safety as a standing committee?
I am, but I heard three council members are interested, so.
Well, I think that I wouldn't displace anyone. I just
Oh.
said if there's no, I think I said if there's an opening.
did, yeah.
So if you're interested, I
Oh,
wasn't
no.
sure how you
Oh,
wanted
yeah,
to do
no, I'm
that.
totally interested.
Then
I was
I
just-
think it should.
okay.
I mean, if, it sounds to me like what we ought to really do is keep it as a committee and just do the public noticing, because all these things are gonna keep coming back. I know you think you get street racing, you can get that addressed, but you're gonna wanna follow up, and I just think you're better off keeping all this together and just being that committee.
Can we break one out as a ad hoc committee and then keep the rest as a standing?
I'm fine with that.
But what's the point of that?
Just so we could act quicker on like the street racing. It's continuing. Like, it's such an issue that I feel that we could bring some real attention to it if we do it through an ad hoc committee.
Well, it's your committee. I mean, if you want to do it that way, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you guys should be on that too then.
That's fine.
I would suggest trying it as a standing committee first, and to try not to duplicate, and then if we need to, let's separate it off.
I'd rather do something as an ad hoc committee.
We're at the pleasure of the council.
Well, just have the two of them, bring it back and have the two of them figure out what they'd like to do, because they're going to be it apparently.
Fine. Can we do that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that
All right, so we're going to table this one,
You're good.
and we'll come back at the pleasure of Councilmember Weintraub
Then
and
we
Shapiro.
We can't meet before then, okay.
You can, it's just not a committee meeting.
Okay.
It's just two council members talking.
All right.
Yeah.
You just can't talk to the three of us.
Good, done, thank you.
All right, so the next one is open space annexation. The suggestion here was that we create an ad hoc committee specifically for the $5 million Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy grant to decide which parcels to ask for that money to purchase, and to create a separate ad hoc committee to write the 2026 open space ballot initiative that would tighten up our ordinance on open space. So two separate ad hoc committees. Both of those were started with myself and Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Bazagian on there. Does any other council member have a comment on those?
I don't like the way this is laid out. Again, this is another problematic one. We're going to go down and testify and presumably meet as a committee before the Board of Supervisors agendizes the annexation of Craftsman's Corner.
Right.
We've got constantly items coming up for potential, do we want to recommend the council make this purchase or not? I mean, it's going to constantly come up. And then you're going to have that, plus these two ad hoc committees. This is something that doesn't meet a lot. I would say we need to have notice meetings
As a committee, standing
as a
committee.
committee. It's just,
Okay.
it's not wieldable as an ad hoc.
So I would argue that the open space acquisition would be very unwieldy as a standing committee, because we would have members of the public showing up.
No, closed session.
You can't.
Yes, you can. When it's confidential, and when it's a purchase of property, a committee would meet in closed session.
If it's purchase of property, I'm not sure what the Santa Monica Conservancy grant and.
Not that. He's talking about buying, actually, making a purchase of, it's always been closed session.
If I could add to that, Mayor, so any property acquisition needs to come back to closed session for the entire council. And the reality is outside of the $5 million, we don't have money to purchase open space. Well, let me rephrase that. The council can always use the money as they so wish. There are a lot of other competing priorities that would come to discussion before purchasing open space, depending on the
But when
price.
there's property, that's not, I don't, when there's property defaults, staff presents them, we meet, and then we debate the purchase. But when Peter and I have met, that would be a closed session matter. That's not an open session matter. And yes, we do have the money. Because mostly those parcels are $1,000 or $2,000. So that's not, we do that all the time. We haven't done it a lot lately, but we discuss it. That's closed session, isn't it?
Anytime there's property acquisition, that is closed session.
Okay, so there's no issue there.
No.
We notice it and it's closed session, so the
Right.
members of the public aren't going to be hearing it.
Right, it's just the requirement is still the noticing and the agendizing. These two specific items, though, can be ad hoc committees because they are limited in the subject matter jurisdiction and the timeframes.
I understand that. What I was saying was, if you have these two as ad hoc, plus we're going to have to meet on the Craftsman's Corner annexation, we're going to have to meet on potential acquisition of county default properties. It's not worth it to keep these as ad hoc committees if it can all just be, well, you know what? Actually, Peter and I should probably discuss this and just bring it back. This is not something that
Actually, I think I can sum up and agree with you here. I would recommend that we keep an annexation standing committee and that we also create 2 ad hoc committees, at least one for the open space ballot initiative.
Okay.
And I would suggest that council member or Mayor Pro Tem Bazaji and myself serve on each of those. Does that work? I know, I'm.
Repeat that, so as a standing committee
Create
on
a standing
annexations?
committee that's on annexation, an ad hoc committee on the open space ballot initiative. And I guess we don't need another ad hoc committee on the open space acquisition because we would just notice it and discuss it in closed session. I guess to make it cleaner, make 2 ad hoc committees as you see them on the screen and an annexation standing committee.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I just thought of something, and it comes to your point. I listed here the $5 million Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy grant, the funds from the state. We're not bound to just discussing those funds. So that ad hoc committee could meet. So for example, again, I was just referencing that money is available. It doesn't have to just focus on that. So the ad hoc committee could meet to discuss default properties. It could be meet to discuss properties that a property owner wants to donate.
Okay, but according to our city attorney, you
seems to
can't
be-
do that
that
because
seems
it's
to
a
be
standing.
going in
That becomes more standing, okay.
That's the whole reason why I said that, because you left off that part of it, and once you add that, it can't be an ad hoc committee.
Agreed. Leave the standing committee for annexation.
Annexation and
And
open space
acquisition.
Okay.
And an ad hoc committee for
And then create the
validation.
2 ad hoc committees that you see on the screen in front of you.
Okay.
Is there a need for a standing committee on annexations? I mean, I know that we're so close to moving forward with the Craftsman's Corner, but is there much to do after that, I guess?
Yes,
When a
because-
tax default property comes available.
He's talking annexation.
What's that?
He said annexation.
Oh, for annexation?
Yes, because we don't know what the result is yet. What if we get a 25% protest and we're going to have an election, we're going to have all types of things.
Okay.
Okay, so a standing and an ad hoc. There are 2 ad hocs and a standing.
Correct.
Yes. I'll raise
Got it.
No.
I'll pass that on to the assistant city manager and the deputy city manager for that one.
All right.
Next one,
Next.
sustainability. This is one that I really struggled with because of the duplication efforts of our environmental commission. Again, this could be a standing committee if the council has a clear purpose for that standing committee. It could be an ad hoc committee that focuses on a climate action plan. We did do some drought-tolerant landscaping discussions. We're really looking for direction from the council on this one, if there is a need for this, and if there is, what's the focus that isn't overlapping with the Environmental Commission.
So I got a question or two about the climate action plan. So would this be the creation of a climate action plan, or would it be implementing one that already exists?
So we had, as one of the strategic priorities, the discussion of a climate, well, let me rephrase that. On one of our future agenda items, there was a discussion of a climate action plan. We got to a point where we brought in an outside consultant. The council gave direction on that, but we pulled back. Part of that was funding availability. Part of that was really looking at the overall long-term goal of that. So an ad hoc committee could come back and look at that and say, this is still a priority for the city, a climate action plan. We want to move forward with an RFP. We want to budget that in the fiscal year. So that could be the focus of the ad hoc committee if you wanted to do so.
That's primarily where I'm going on this, and leading into, we're going to have an action plan, climate action. The action's going to cost money. So I think going out to determine how much that would cost would be appropriate at the beginning, and then seek revenue to fulfill that. So this ad hoc committee could last for quite a while.
And I also want to add, this could be something that is tasked to the Environmental Commission. The council could easily say, Environmental Commission, this is one of our top priorities. We want you to explore a climate action plan. Give us the cost, give us the pros and cons, and the extent of that.
So as a function of the ad hoc committee, the committee as a council?
No, so this is what I'm asking is there a real need for this to be an ad hoc committee of the council, or can this be pushed to the commission?
I don't know if the commission's, I'd like to say the commission, because it's a very active commission. It's a great commission. I think they've reached a point where they would, are skilled enough on the climate, on environmental propositions to consider it. I would consider that.
A little bit of a different view on that. This has come to council. We actually went through it. We spent money. We authorized money. We had a consultant. And you're more aware of this than I am. And there was a plan potentially to come back with additional steps that we were already doing towards a climate action plan, not paying these large amounts of monies that other cities have at this time. And that was really in the council's purview. It wasn't the Environmental Commission purview. So I don't know where it really belongs. As far as transition, drought-tolerant landscaping, city-owned property, that's perfect for the Environmental Commission in my mind. I'm no expert. If you wanted to have an ad hoc committee, I would suggest if it was Ed and I, it would be for one purpose. One item would be to look at, which we've been looking at for years, I brought up the Cool Streets program, which I would like to see either it's good, we recommend it to council, or it's not, and the committee's gone. That, to me, is what an ad hoc would be able to do. The climate action plan was something, I realize it was pushed by another former council member more than anyone, but it came through council, so I would think that would be something council would do. We wouldn't want to start spending a lot of money through the Environmental Commission on a climate action plan without council's approval. That would be my only concern.
It seems that the transition to drought-tolerant landscaping would fit perfectly into an ad hoc, because you want to get it started.
Or that could just be a budget item discussion, really, is what it could be. It doesn't have to have a committee to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So what I'm hearing, I think, is a request to have two ad hoc committees, one for climate action plan and then one for Cool Streets program.
Yeah, that would work. The climate action plan is, to me, is more like public safety. You know, it's something that's ongoing. It's going to be a while. It's going to take quite a while to put this together. It's not a snappy item.
Is the Climate Action Plan Ad Hoc Committee just to develop a document?
No, that would be done through an RFP process. Really, it'd be to explore the cost of doing this. Are there outside grants to fund it? What is the scope of that when we go out to RFP and bring
Oh,
those
so-
recommendations back to the council?
Okay, so it's just even the ad hoc just to be,
But we can
well, how do
discuss
we,
some,
how do we create one? Like, how,
Yeah.
okay.
can we discuss some of this at the workshop?
It's kind of dragging
Yeah.
a little bit.
Can we
Yeah.
do some of this at the
Move-
workshop?
Let's just move this along.
Yep.
You want to just do the climate, or the Cool Street as an ad hoc?
Yeah.
Can we just do the Cool Street program as an ad hoc for, at
Right
this
now.
time? Because that's one item, it'll either work or it won't, to recommend to council.
And we'll talk about the climate action plan during our strategic
Perfect.
planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay?
And then the recommendation would be still Albrecht and Shapiro for that ad hoc committee, correct? Okay.
I didn't see any other hands up.
And-
Sorry.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, is that to determine if what's the ad hoc committee going to do on
Cool Streets plan.
The viability of Cool Streets project, or projects.
We're going to get a demonstration model in front of City Hall.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Wipe it. Peter's office.
Okay, next.
Technology and infrastructure. This was a new task force that we created last year, and I don't know if it really served its purpose. So again, looking for direction and thoughts from the council.
What is the purpose
Or
of this?
can we do that at the workshop? That seems like a good
That was
workshop one.
wireless and things like that, but
Good
yeah.
workshop one.
Okay.
SC,
Okay.
yeah. We
So
don't
we'll
need
move
it
that
now.
to discussion on strategic planning, goal setting.
Perfect.
Can I make a comment on this committee?
Sure.
Somehow I'd like to weave in cell phones, the cell phone problem.
That's what
into
we had.
this.
That's what we
what it
had.
is.
That's what it is.
That's what it is primarily.
Thank you.
Assistant City Manager
That's
Trujillo, do you
exactly
want
what
to talk
we
about that just briefly?
We have no
Well,
control. Workshop, I thought.
it's going to be at the workshop. I mean,
Yeah, let's
this
save
is
it for the
really
workshop.
taking a long time.
But I think there's a report on that, so, and just so the council's aware, if we could, please.
Regarding the cell phone, the towers and so forth. So last night, the CTC commission had met, and there's an RFP that's going to be going out on Monday, March 3rd. And what we're doing is we're casting a wider net from the RFP that went out a couple years ago. For example, the RFP that went out a couple years ago was just for third-party vendors to put up cell phone towers on city-owned properties. What we've done this time is we moved from 9 sites to 12 sites, so expanded by 3. We've also opened it up to the actual carriers themselves, so third parties who typically put up those cell towers are welcome to bid on the RFP, as well as the actual carriers themselves. So that RFP is going to go out on March 3rd. The CTC Commission was very happy with that expansion and those efforts. So.
Scott, I got a question concerning it.
I'm sorry, are we off topic here?
Yes.
Thank you for the update, but we are on committees, so we can follow up with the
I'll follow up.
you can follow up with the assistant city manager afterwards.
And that was the last one, council members.
Okay. Any other council comments?
Thank you.
No, all right. So we've given staff direction. I don't think we need a motion on this, do we? No, okay.
Do you need a motion for the appointments of those, city clerk?
I think they were all done by consensus.
Perfect, we're good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, and the remainder we'll be discussing at our goal-setting sessions. Okay, oral reports. Does the council have anything to report? Start with Councilmember Bazagian.
Yes, I just wanted to report I attended the State League of California Cities board meeting in Rancho Cucamonga on February 20th and 21st.
Okay, Councilmember Shapiro?
Yes, I'll go through them quickly. Attended the Chamber Attorney Forum, and we had a great presentation on the new IRS rules and the things going on, by a specialist, things going on in DC and here that will affect individuals and businesses. Also, we are planning Law Day again in the city, which will be in May and will be announced first week in May, I believe, and will be announced at a later, very soon date. I also attended the Chamber Government Affairs virtual meeting and provided some updates on what was going on in the city and with our ongoing actions. Attended, along with Curtis and Michael Klein, the Valley Economic Alliance, Our Region, Our Future, with Lieutenant Governor was there, along with Fiona Ma and many others. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. board meeting for the Valley Economic Alliance. I attended SCAG, LCMC, and I was appointed president of the Scholarship Committee, which is coming up, and those are one-time grants of $4,000 for students throughout the region and high schools. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Albrecht.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few. CPA Alliance, Finance Committee I had this morning. Might want to know that their budget is doing great. Climate has been very quiet, not very hot, so they've been able to benefit from the financials from that. And I'm looking forward to, it's a short report tonight, but our budget committee this Friday, starting that session. So it'll be a good experience for me to do this the first time, and I appreciate being a part of it.
Councilmember Weintraub.
We had our COG meeting last week. A significant portion of it was devoted to the landfill, so representatives from our COG cities could receive information and ask questions, and it was a very enlightening meeting. Just adds fuel to the fire of everything that we're dealing with, so thank you.
All right. And I have a few to announce. First of all, we did have a special city council meeting on February 17th where we met in closed session and gave direction to our city attorney. On the 19th, the ad hoc committee for the landfill met. On the 20th, our environmental forum was put on by our environmental commission, and the topic was the wildlife crossing at our neighboring city of Agoura Hills. Had a great panel of experts there sharing all the details. On February 21st, I attended a court hearing with our city attorney. I also attended with Councilmember Albrecht and our city manager. On the 24th, I attended a survey from the Las Verdes Municipal Water District on what we hope to get out of our water committee. Also on the 24th, there was another meeting of our city attorney at court, and I want to acknowledge that Councilmember Albrecht and Councilmember Bazagian, as well as our city manager, attended that. Thank you for being there to support. On the 24th, I attended the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy meeting. I can share more details with that, but we'll do that at a later time. On the 25th, a number of council members did attend the county supervisors meeting to speak against item number 10, which opens up the waste shed, allowing fire debris from farther away to come to our landfill, and that was opposed by myself and Councilmember Bazagian and Councilmember Albrecht, and Councilmember Weintraub also called in for her comments. Thank you all. And then finally, on the 26th, the landfill ad hoc committee met once again. So other than that, we have not done much lately, and I'll ask our city manager for a report.
I think the council covered it well. Nothing to report tonight.
And with that, we can adjourn to the next regular meeting, which will be held on March 12th, 2025.